Hello, everybody. This is Joseph Pasek, and welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to a special Friday afternoon edition of the flagship show of the Fired Up Network, Fired Up Live. We got an outstanding show for you today. We're going to begin the show with Captain Canada, Drew Ebanks of OnPointBasketball.com, talking about the World Cup of Basketball. Semifinals were played today on Ballin. Check that out. Then, the return of the one and only from Tampa Bay, Steve Carney, who goes around the majors talking about Major League Baseball, followed by Cottage Gridiron Week 2 with Alex Campbell and Gerard Bentley. And then we have John Freeman Nelson of OSG Sports, the Hall of Famer, on CFL No Yards, previewing Week 14 of the CFL. And then National Football League, we have three-time Super Bowl champion Randy Cross with Steve Carney. Randy had a little bit of problems with his camera. So did Drew Ebanks. But Randy's on with Steve Carney talking NFL Blitz. And then the debut of Crunching the Numbers with Alex Campbell, myself, and the return of Eric Cohen. Eric Cohen and Alex Campbell give you what to expect in the National Football League Week 1. Then we have Inside the Game, and we conclude the show with a great interview, Harley Race's son, here on the Fired Up Network. We're going to begin, as mentioned, with Drew Ebanks of OnPointBasketball.com. And welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to a special edition of Fired Up Live, Friday afternoon edition. And welcome to Captain Canada, Drew Ebanks here on Ballin. I had to bring him back because I thought we're going to talk about a gold medal game, but unfortunately Canada losing to Serbia, and it hurts even more, Drew, as Germany beat USA. So it is Germany and Serbia in the gold medal final. And in the bronze medal, it's Canada, U.S. Drew,
Yeah,
like this one hurts even more than losing because Germany beat U.S.
it hurts. It hurts a lot because I think Canada had a good shot if they were able to get to the final. I mean, but Germany's a tough team. They just seem to put it together all tournament long. And so, it would have been a tough matchup either way. But yeah, the world, if you think of it, the world never thought they would see this, where it would be Canada, U.S. in the bronze. Everybody was thinking it's going to be Canada, U.S. for gold. But that's how it is. You got to go out now after a tough game. Do you want to go into a little bit of the game? What happened for
Yeah,
Canada?
go ahead.
Well, yeah, I felt personally, Joe. I felt that they were trying to be tough for some reason. I don't know what the game plan was, but it was almost like, hey, we've heard how Serbia's tough. We've heard how they're big, they're strong. They punish you. We want to show we're tough. I don't think that played into the strengths of. And when you looked at it in the first quarter, I believe three main guys, starters, had two fouls. Shea, Kelly, and who was the other one? It might have been Dylan Brooks as well. And you just can't play aggressively when your main guys are in foul trouble, not only in the first half, but in the first quarter. And remember, it's not NBA rules where you get 6 fouls. It is FIBA rules where it's just like any other normal basketball. You get 5 fouls. So for Canada, I think they went into it. Obviously, Joe, we know they're young. We're still, I think 5 or 6 guys on the team, or maybe even 7, are 25 and under. And so this Canadian nation of basketball, we're still undergoing our growing pains. It's been phenomenal, the run they've gone on. I don't think if you really added it up before the tournament, did you think Canada was going to go on this much of a run and have this type of record? I don't know. You wanted to. You
But
felt they had the talent, but were they going to get it done?
only match by the team who's in the final, Germany. Who would have thought Germany gets to the gold medal? Like that may be even a bigger story.
Yeah, I think Germany, people were kind of overlooking them, obviously, because the states, it's always America. You think they're going to always reach the final, but you also have to look at it. They didn't really send their full squad that you would have, would have thought they would have sent. They sent I wouldn't even say a C team or a B team, but they didn't send all the big heavy hitters on Team USA. So you saw them lose to Lithuania, so you knew also the US was beatable as well. So yeah, it's very shocking not to see them in the final, and then that would have been a Cinderella, Canada US for gold and to see. But we'll get Canada US in the bronze medal. So who's going to have the letdown? Who's going to be like, oh man, we should be in the final. We don't want to play this game, or who is like, yo, we can get a medal, and for
Well,
Canada, it would be the highest ever
if
finish.
that's the mindset, it's going to be Canada. Canada wants to win a medal. U.S. Well, you should say that both teams are going to make the Olympics to qualify for the Olympics. That's big for Canada. They already qualified for Olympics and all that, and it should be good. It doesn't matter each way, but Sunday, bronze medal, gold medal, bronze medal, like we talked about. USA and Canada. Canada should prevail in this one because USA, anything U.S. does for third place. If it's not first, they rather finish last. Put it that way.
Hmm. Well, yeah, they always want to win. Obviously, they've won the majority of the tournaments, but I think you still have to save face if you're America. Man, imagine going in with a team with some really good players. I mean, you have some guys that are essentially all NBA. You still have some super talented point guards, and you have some great forwards there as well, some solid forwards. You still want to try to salvage something in this event. So it's going to be interesting to see who can bring themselves up to playing at a specific level to get that medal.
Let's talk about bringing to close it out, bringing yourself up. Shea honestly, if he's not the best point guard, he's definitely in the top three in the NBA. And he showed in this World Championship or World Cup that he's to be reckoned with. And there's some rumors are going around that he may not play for Oklahoma or whatever. Musai, here's the phone. Call him up right now. Put it that way. What do you say?
That he may not play for, he's signed, he's locked
He
in. I don't
signed,
know.
he signed, but for a few years. But after that, he doesn't want to play. It sounds like he doesn't want to play for Oklahoma. He wants to go to either Toronto or some big name city.
Hmm. Well, I'd have to wait and see to make a judgment on that. I personally don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, if you're OKC, you could see what this young man could do against FIBA, where zones you can zone up as a team. You basically can hand check, grab, push. It's like old school NBA basketball. What you got away with, and he still averaged 30 a game, probably like 6.5 assists, 5, 4, 5 rebounds. Essentially, will go down as probably the best player of the event if it's not Luka. And so, to me, if you're OKC, you're getting back Chet Holmgren. You have Williams talent. You have all these young talented players, and then you got a plethora of draft picks. I can't see you wanting to make a move away from Shea, but hey, stranger things have happened. If the Raptors could somehow get Shea Gilgeous-Alexander now, that puts your franchise back. Your rebuild gets a boost by at least 50% right away.
Alex Campbell misses you, and he'll be back in a couple weeks since NBA training camp start off in a couple weeks. Just we'll close it up with the NBA here. Masai Ujiri still has moves to make. Are you surprised that he hasn't made it thus far? We're talking already second week of September.
Yeah, it's quite quiet on the Raptors front. And, I think a lot of people are really wanting to hear from Masai. He's normally, obviously, the Raptors are kind of mysterious in the way they do things, But I think in years past, we've also had a greater idea of the direction of this team and how good or bad the team's going to be. Right now, if you ask people, it's not a positive outlook on the idea of the direction of this team and how good or bad the team's going to be. Right now, if you ask people, it's not a positive outlook on the Toronto Raptors. You're confused when you hear things like they're going to move Pascal Siakam. Then you're wondering, well, why would they lock in Jakob Pertl when Jakob Pertl and Pascal Siakam are like best friends, pretty much? And if you're going to lock in Pertl, how in the world is the talk about Pascal Siakam getting moved? So people are confused, and obviously losing Freddie, that was a pretty big miscalculation, but they still kind of got away with it because you don't really want to pay Freddie Van Vliet that much money at this stage in his career as well. So, your positives are you look at Dennis Schroeder and what he's done for Germany, and he's in the gold medal game. And he showed that he might have another gear in him this year to be a great replacement for Fred Van Vliet. And we hope that he could carry on this is level of play for the Raptors. Although you have to, of course, understand FIBA basketball and NBA basketball. We was talking to guys this morning. It's like a totally complete
Yeah.
different game. It's not even the same type of sport in a way. Yeah, it's basketball, but it's so far away from what the NBA is used to. We'll see if Dennis Schroeder can parlay his play at the Worlds and bring it to the Raptors and be a big time leader for Toronto.
All right, let's talk about Canadian basketball here. Let's talk about the ladies side. Drew, do you have any updates on Canadian basketball ladies side?
Well, not so much. I mean, obviously, WNBA is going on.
This
Canada's just
weekend, the
always.
WNBA closes the regular season on Sunday, so playoffs are starting in the WNBA next week. Go ahead, Drew. Sorry.
Yeah, playoffs are starting. Obviously, some teams are in it. You like to really support the women's game, and I think that WNBA has so much potential as far as Joe, the getting to the imagination of the basketball public and women's basketball in general, as well. The fact that NCAA to me was more compelling last year, the NCAA Women's March Madness than the men's. And I think they're going to parlay those stars, if that are playing right now in college, and move that onto the WNBA. So for me, I'm always watching, I'm always supporting, and I always want to support our Canadian players as well.
All right, and today comes out NBA 2K24. Drew is not on camera because he's
I'm
secretly
not
recording.
undercover.
You're not on the well. They can't disgrace the company with you on the cover. By the way, is your hair growing back?
Oh, no, it's pretty low. I just cut it yesterday, so keeping it low for a while.
All right, Drew. Any last comments here? Tell everybody how they could get a hold of you.
Well, it's great to see. I mean, it's disappointing that we're not playing for gold for Canada, but you talk about the progress this country has made in a very short time, Joe. And I talked about one of the major factors for Canadian basketball was an event that happened back in 2008, about 15 years ago. It was the Adidas Super 64 AAU Summer Tournament. It was in July in Las Vegas, and Coach Ro Russell, the legendary Ro Russell, took a team down to Vegas and actually won that tournament. All right. It had a bunch of big time teams. They ended up beating the Compton Magic, which was being in history one of the most successful AAU programs in America. Took them down in double overtime. Guys like Tristan Thompson, Mike Kabongo, Corey Joseph, and Jason Kalist, and you can go down the line. Junior Cadogan, Dwight Powell. There's the connection right there to Dwight Powell playing right now for Team Canada, and they went down and took out a lot of American teams. They went, I think, 14 straight wins in that event. When they went back the following year, unfortunately, they lost in the quarters. But to me, Joe, that was a seminal moment in Canadian basketball because that was the first time that was a U16 team. That was the first time a Canadian AAU program won a prestigious one of the top, if not one of the top, if not the top AAU events in America, and they went down there and showed what type of talent we had in Canada. And they got a lot of scholarships out of that. Those 2 years, Coach Rowe has sent hundreds of players to the NBA, to college, and also several to the NBA. And so for me, that was a confidence builder. That was when the guys knew, hey, we could play with America. We could play with the best in the world. And from there, you had programs, that came on. CIA Bounce with Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, Tyler Ennis. And then you had your Canada Elites, and Canada Elites up there right now with the next one. And Joe, we've talked about this. Efosa Olioju was slated to go to DME Academy, is now down at Overtime Elite in Atlanta, Georgia. He's going to get paid, I believe, 100K. He's the best Canadian player right now. And then you have your other programs. You have your Northern Kings that put out a lot of great college players and looking to put some more to university and NBA and whatnot. And then you have UPlay Canada, RJ Barrett, Shea Gilgis Alexander, to name a couple that came through UPlay. Shaden Sharp, and see what he did for UPlay a couple summers ago. Put himself into the lottery, put himself as the best high school player in the nation. So watch out. We've got more. The 2025 and 2026 classes, we got plethora of talent coming out. So remember, the grassroots, folks, that's where a lot of these players you see that are playing for Canada, they got their chops in. Great training, great coaching from the grassroots, the AAU, the rep, the prep schools, even in the States as well, have nurtured Canada. And it's funny, Joe. I got an email from somebody to On Point. I did a hit this morning on CBC, and she said, "Why aren't you giving any props to the U.S. college, the U.S. System, the universities?" And I said, "Well, I didn't have enough time, but I've said it in the past. We thank America so much for opening up their arms to our Canadian kids to come down there to, essentially take some spots away from Americans. But you know what? Our kids play hard. They play tough. They really don't get in a lot of trouble. They kind of keep their noses clean. And I think that's part of the reason why so many Canadian kids get recruited out of Canada. So I want to just shout out Canada. And I also pointed out the women, Joe, the women's national team, senior women's national team, has carried the torch in the Olympics, several Olympics, as well as world championships, Pan Am Games. And I think now the men have finally stepped up and are meeting that challenge. And so they have a lot to catch up on. But as you do on the Fired Up Network, you got FEM coming up, which is a female empowerment network. We always want to point out the accomplishments of the ladies. And again, they've held the gold standard as far as FIBA competitions for Canada. And now, finally, the men have qualified for the Olympics. I say, Joe, we go out to France. We get to Paris, man. We're going to have a blast out there. Vive la France! Vive la
We go to
France!
France. I'll just eat the baguettes. You work. All right. That's that. Drew Banks on pointbasketball.com. And next time we'll see
Yep.
his bald head. All right. Through a couple weeks, NBA season starts off, and maybe we'll get you back here to talk about the gold and bronze medal games of the World Cup of basketball.
Yeah, we might as well. I mean, I think it's another early day, Joe. It's going to be 4:30. I got to get up again on
You're
Sunday,
not getting
and
up at 4:30. First of all, Sunday, in case you don't know, it's week 1 of the National Football League, where the Bills are going to beat the Eagles in Super Bowl.
He's still hoping for the Bills. Hey, listen, if it's not the Eagles, I'm going to give it to you. I want the Bills to win the Super Bowl. If it's not the Eagles, I will be rooting
Hold
for
on,
the
if the
Bills
Bills
to win
play
the
the
Super Bowl.
Eagles, you know you're going for the Bills, right?
Well, if those two matchups, I mean, I don't think you guys can match up with us. I'll be honest with you. I
Yeah,
don't think you
give me your
can. We've
expert
got
opinion. Which players, everything. Come on, analyze it. Basic and welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to a special Friday afternoon edition of Friday of Fired Up Live. And I had to bring him back. Yes, I had to bring him back. I haven't seen this guy in like 6 months. He is working harder than me. Yeah, right. It's Steve Carney. Steve Carney from my good friend in Tampa Bay, Florida. First of all, how's the weather in Tampa?
It has rained
Well, what
here
else is
the
new?
last. Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned we haven't talked in quite a while, and I normally I have to deal with working in working in the Florida State League, and I think I may have had 3 rainouts this year total. Well, usually I have like between like 15 and 20. It's been weird.
Wow. All right, I brought you on here. We're going to talk NFL later. That's why I'm wearing a shirt. By the way, you know who's winning the Super Bowl this year. All right. You know who's nobody
The Detroit
circles the
Lions.
wagon. If you believe that, I mean, you might as well take off that hat because you got hair now. All right, you believe. All right, put it that way. All right, but let's talk around the majors. When I had you on about 5 months ago, Tampa was like 21 and what 5 or whatever, and Tampa's going to finish first and all that. Nobody in the first, maybe Yankees, maybe the Blue Jays, not the Red Sox. But would you ever think Baltimore?
Yeah, Baltimore's got a very good young team. It wasn't that long ago that I remember being on shows with you talking about how the Orioles stunk and that they had no farm
Yeah.
system, so it looked like they were going to stink for the foreseeable future. Well, the one thing that the uh, uh, the general manager Mike Elias and his front did was take the pieces that he did have and use them to restock the farm system, and then made a couple of very strong early picks, which in baseball is as much of a crapshoot, if not more, than even like the NFL draft. Because you're talking about drafting guys and then seeing them get to the big leagues 4 or 5 years, but going out, they draft number 1 overall. They draft Gunnar Henderson. They draft Jackson Holiday, number 1 overall. All three, Henderson and Rushman are already in the big league. There's talk that Jackson Holiday may be in the big leagues in 2024. So they've done a very, very good job there. They built probably the best bullpen in all of baseball with Yenier Cano and Felix Bautista, who was just absolutely tearing up the 9th inning and games until he hurt his elbow, and now he's probably done for the year. Done a really good job of being able to shorten games, and the fact is, nobody in baseball right now is better when they lead after 6 innings than Baltimore.
All right, let's. We talked about Baltimore. Let's talk about your team, Tampa. First, usual question. Forget about how they're playing or whatever. What's going on with the stadium there? What, like
Stadium
every time?
stadium news is quiet, Joe. It's been very quiet all year long. They've had some preliminary discussions. They submitted their proposal for the redevelopment of the Tropicana Field site, which included a new stadium. The city council here in St. Petersburg picked that proposal to redevelop the site. So right now, all signs are pointing to there being a new stadium where Tropicana Field is, or basically in the parking lot of where Tropicana Field is, come 2028. And so I think that's the best move. They're looking to do a ballpark area, much like they have in Atlanta and in Washington and in San Diego. Those and of course the ultimate neighborhood ballpark is, of course, Wrigley Field. But I really do think that they're trying to do something in the same vein as the Atlanta Braves, who, of course, moved into the suburbs and built that beautiful ballpark and all the stuff that's around it, the retail, the residential, everything that's grown up because of the ballpark out there. The Rays ownership group is looking to do something similar in St. Petersburg.
So if they do in the parking lot, where would they play then?
Well, they would continue to play at the Trop
Really?
until the new building is built, and then they would turn around and, much like the White Sox did at Comiskey, just like the Mets did when they moved from Shea Stadium to Citi Field, like the Reds did when they moved from Riverfront into Great American Ballpark. Those are all buildings that were built right next door in the parking lot. And I would think the Rays will do something similar to that as they wait for a new stadium to be built in St. Petersburg. They would continue to play at Tropicana Field.
Now we got to talk about this third wild card because it's going crazy. Finally, because of COVID, they made a third wild card and all that. And teams looking in the National League, there's about 6 teams could go to the playoffs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the American League, let's talk about where I am, Toronto and Texas. What's a bigger, like, I know what I'm going to say about Toronto, but Texas, they were first place. They started off everything. What's a bigger story? Them missing the playoffs or the Blue Jays going to missing the playoffs?
Oh, it's definitely Texas. You don't go out and get Aroldis Chapman and then trade for Max Scherzer and miss the playoffs. I think that would be, and I know that here in Tampa Bay, there was a lot of talk. The front office didn't make any moves. They didn't. They only went out and they didn't get 3 arms. So they didn't go out and trade for Ohtani. There's been a lot of talk here about how the front office moves slowly, moves carefully, and does not try and make the jump into the deep end. The Rangers, obviously, they decided the hell with it. We're going to jump into the deep end. They go and they trade for Aroldis Chapman. They give up one of their big prospects in order to do that. By the way, that prospect looking very good in Kansas City. And then they go out and they make the deal to bring in Max Scherzer from the New York Mets, and we can get into a whole discussion about what Stevie Cohen is doing with the Mets. But they've done this, and all of a sudden, their production is sort of backed off, and they're now losing games that earlier in this season they would have won. And here they are, they be on the outside looking in, because you look at it, obviously the Rays with the top wild card, you look at and Seattle and the Rangers and the Blue Jays. It really is very interesting because one of those teams is going to win the Central, obviously, or but 3 teams is not going to playoffs, and I think it would be a much bigger story if the Rangers missed the playoffs just because of the splashes that they tried to make at the trade deadline. And if they miss the playoffs, I don't know. That could have repercussions for years.
Seattle, Blue Jays, Texas. Which of those teams? Because Houston's going to make it, maybe winning and all that, right?
Yeah.
Which of the teams, if you're Tampa, scares you the most?
Seattle. Seattle is really, really good. They pitch so good, and I mean as we're taping this, the Rays and Mariners are playing a 4-game series at Tropicana Field. The first game was 1-0. Zach Littell for the Rays went a season best 8 for Tampa Bay. Gave up just that single run and ends up taking the hard luck loss. But on top of Luis Castillo and Kirby and Logan Gilbert, I mean, they pitch so good. And imagine thinking that the Mariners were going to have this sort of starting pitching staff without Robbie Ray. They spent all that money to get Robbie Ray, and Tommy John has taken him from this year, and I think that's just an incredible an incredible starting pitching matchup. And they've got a really tough closer, that Andres Munoz kid. He really throws super hard, and he's got some really nasty breaking stuff.
You mentioned Otani. So let's say we're just starting September. Let's say we're in March. Where's Otani playing?
In Los Angeles. It's a good question. I think that his decision on whether or not he's going to have UCL surgery or when he's going to have UCL surgery, I think will factor in heavily into where he may play next year, because I think there's a very good chance that he ends up re-signing with the Angels just because of the familiarity, but he signs like a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal with an opt-out after one. And that gives him an opportunity to come back and DH this year, try and get ready, and maybe make a splash next year. Because I think any team that's going to sign him wants him to be a two-way player, and he wants to be a two-way player, but he's not going to pitch next year. And I think that's going to tamp down his market for next year, because you're going to be signing, whether it's $400 or $500 million, or even for a guy that's not good, that's only going to DH. He doesn't play in the field. He's only a DH, and he's a pitcher, but he's not going to be able to pitch. I don't know how much you can spend for a guy like that.
All right, so let's look. We'll go with Toronto and Tampa to close it out here. For the Blue Jays, I want your take because you're in Tampa here. We're biased in Toronto. Vlad Guerrero, like last year, 2 years ago, the talk of baseball, like one of the best players ever, and blah blah blah. And now, I don't know if he's going to be able to sign, because they were looking at Bichette or Guerrero. You can't probably sign both, so you're going to sign Guerrero. Now, your estimation from Tampa, what do you think of Vlad Guerrero? Up and down, up and down. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that, with both those guys that you mentioned, with Guerrero and with Bichette, they have positives and they have negatives. I mean, Guerrero, he can be one of the most dynamic hitters in the game. I really do think that. But there are also times that he looks lost at the plate. And I think that you're going to have to take the good with the bad. The same thing with Bo Bichette. I think he's so good at his bat. He's gonna always be up there, leading the league in hits. He's always going to be in the top 2-3 guys every year, just because his bat to ball skills are so good. With Bichette, it's his fielding. It's going to be the question mark of where do you play him in the field? Do you continue to play him at shortstop when you have to know that his defensive prowess was already limited, is going to continue to decline as he gets older? And where do you move him when his time at shortstop comes to an end? Do you move him to third base? Do you move him to the first base? Do you move him to the outfield? Here in Tampa, we had a guy that thought he was a shortstop, who was a really good hitter, and thought he could play shortstop, and he couldn't. And he had problems with the throw, and so he ends up being moved around. He's second base. He played first base. He ended up playing in the outfield. His name was Brad Miller. He was a really, really hitter and a really good dude. And I think that, he's still in the league, for crying out loud. He playing in the outfield. You're going to end up having to make that question, and you're going to have to answer that question if you sign Bo Bichette long term. Is okay. We can take his mistakes at shortstop for now, but how long can we continue to do that and still be successful?
So, Giancarlo Lino, your good friend, a special shout out Giancarlo Lino, asked Steve Carney if he could grow David Schneider's mustache. So,
no, I do not have the mustache gene. My father has a fantastic mustache. I'm going to try and pull up a picture of my father. I did not get the mustache gene.
You did not.
This is about as much move away from from Mike a little bit so you can see the where the mustache and the facial hair gets to. It's very white now. It is very. It's just.
Is it working with Norm Rumack? They give you all the whiteness.
It's definitely that. Hold on a second. Let me see here. I gotta share.
All right, with Steve Carney here around the majors.
We're gonna pull up. This is I'll pull up a picture of my father.
All right, hold on. Here we go.
That's my old man and my stepmom. I could not get that mustache. That mustache does not.
Ronnie McDonald. That
I'm telling you
that
mustache is fantastic, and I unfortunately am unable to grow that mustache. But man, I give him a hard time every time we go out to dinner. I'm like, why did you not give me the mustache, Gene? And he laughs, and I laugh.
What do you think of Davis Schneider coming from Buffalo? And in fact, if it wasn't for the players from Buffalo, Blue Jays would even be worse than they are right now.
Yeah, if you had asked me at the beginning of the year who Davis Schneider is, I would have thought he was John Schneider's little brother. Yeah. Or he was the
the hot dog
he's
vendor.
Going to be on the hot dog vendor or the guy on the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
But no, he's been quite the find and has helped them significantly.
All right, let's close it out here with talking about the Rays. What are the expectations for the Rays? Obviously, Baltimore ahead of them, and they're still like a very good young team and all that. Mm-hmm. But Rays, every year they get to it, and then in the playoffs they die out and everything like that. What are
a lot of it has to do with the injury issues that they've dealt with. I mean, I don't know if there is a team out there that has dealt with as much pitching problems as the Rays have. I mean, you look at it, this team is without Shane McClanahan until 2025. They're without Jeffrey Springs. They're without Drew Rasmussen. Those are the top three guys in their rotation. They're doing this with Tyler Glasnow, Zach Eflin, and duct tape and rubber bands because they've got this young kid, Taj Bradley, who has, a lot of really good tools, but there's, the question is, can he put it all together? Because, you can have the tools and not be able to figure out how to use the tools to bring you success. They went out and they got Zach Littell off waivers from the Red Sox. What an amazing find he's been, and has been a huge plus. And going out and trading Savali. I still think because the playoffs, you really don't need more than 4 starting pitchers. I think they're in okay shape. It would be a lot better if they had McClanahan and Rasmussen and Springs to go along with Clow and Savali. But, I think that Glasnow, Eflin, Savali, and Zach isn't a bad 4-man rotation for the postseason. It's not as good as it could be, but I think it's good enough that you could win a series.
All right, Steve, as we close it out, you'll be back here for NFL Blitz, talking a little NFL. But, Steve, I haven't done this in like 6 months, all right? Are we still under the orange roof? And if there's going to be a new stadium in Tampa, is there going to be an orange roof?
There better be an orange roof, for crying out loud. Yeah, stpete9.com. That's where you can get under the orange roof.
All right, and what do you have this week for under the orange roof?
It has been slow going, but we've got a Roberto Clemente Award nominee. We've got quite a wild finish to come, and we're definitely looking at all that.
All right, we're about a couple weeks from NHL preseason. How are the Tampa Bay Lightning looking at? Because in the Atlantic Conference or division, the Maple Leafs are going to win that division, but lose out in the first round, right?
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you over the giant Stanley Cup rings that I've
Yeah,
got.
yeah. Where are they?
Waiting on
Where are the Stanley Cup rings? Come on. Where?
they're in a safety deposit box because I don't wear them.
So
Uh,
what I mentioned the Rays, but what do you think for this year for the Lightning as we close it out?
To be honest, I think that the Atlantic Division is about as wide open as we've ever seen it. I think that you probably have. Well, I would think you probably have at least 4 teams that I think could be the division winner in this division. I really do think that half the division could end up on top, and half the division could end up battling for the last wild card. So it's going to be really different. It's going to be different watching the Lightning this year because so they've had to have so much turnover because they've been so close to the cap that you've seen guys having to leave, whether it's Tyler Johnson or Yanni Gord or you look at a lot of these guys that have had to move on because of the cap, and the Bolts just seem to say, okay, we've got Stamkos and we've got Kucherov and we've got Braden Point, we've got Nick Paul, and they signed Brandon Hagel to a long-term contract this offseason. I think they're in really good shape, and as long as they've got number 88, who will always be in contention for a Vezina Trophy, I think they're in really good shape.
Final question, and I'm setting this up for you, Steve. Is
Of course you are.
Austin Matthews worth $13.25 million?
Austin Matthews is worth whatever the Leafs are willing to pay for him, and I believe that wholeheartedly. The so weird in the NHL because it stayed relative since the pandemic. I mean, and I think it's been.
I'm Gerald Bentley, joined here by Alex Campbell. It's week 2 of College Gridiron on the Fired Up Network, and we spoke a lot about, obviously, the big story in college football because, just like his name says, prime time. Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
He's got scoreboard now. He took his Colorado Buffaloes, who at least we said they would score a lot, and he took them to not just scoring a lot, he took out the TCU Horned Frogs after TCU played for the title last year. Colorado wins. They take them out. Straight win by 3 in what was really just a brutal opening week for the Big 12. But what do you have to say about Colorado?
I mean, what an exceptional performance. They were 1-11 last year. They were forecast to win 3 games this year by Vegas. So I mean, just winning this. Look, if instead they go 8-3 instead of 3-8, that is going to be an amazing turnaround. Or 4-8. I mean, that's going to be an amazing turnaround for this team to go 8-4 versus 4-8. You know what I mean? And that looks kind of like what the track they're on. I mean, Prime's got them in such a good spot, especially after turning over so much of the roster. They're just right now they're the center of the college football universe. I mean, one thing I'll say overall on the weekend isn't it remarkable that while the Pac-12 is on its way out, right now you have to admit there are probably 2 Heisman hopefuls between Shutter Sanders and Caleb Williams, and 2 electric programs right there. And the Pac-12 seems to be, and I mean, Washington State played well, threw for 450 yards this weekend with Cam Ward. You know what I mean? So there are reasons to be excited for Pac-12 football this year specifically as we see it die out and fade off into the sunset.
Yeah, as it falls apart at the seams. And now we're going to see Colorado. They're going to move probably to 2-0 as they enter in the top 25. They go to number 22 after being picked to be the worst Power 5 school in the country. They're already up to number 22 in the country. They go on to take perennially disappointing Nebraska. Nebraska comes to Boulder, and I think primetime goes to 2-0.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, and they're only 3-point favorites in that game. I do think there'll be a bit of a letdown. Let's not forget that these are young, kids. And a lot of times, I know you've seen this before. I mean, in your career of broadcasting, you know what I mean, and watching sports and fandom even longer than that, kind of that when you have a really young team, and this applies to even pro leagues when the team's really young, but definitely in college every time, and you go on the road against somebody who was in the title game last year that obviously is a great program, and you win a game like that, there typically is a bit of a letdown the next week. Things kind of fall back to reality. However, I do think they'll cover that 3 points. I think Vegas got that right though, because I think it'll be closer than a lot of people after watching Nebraska, of course, start their season the way they did in typical Nebraska fashion, going 0-2. I think a lot of people are going to jump hard on. I think it's going to be way more than 3 points. I wouldn't be surprised. Look, this is a tough game, I think, for Colorado. This is the first Big Ten opponent they're facing, and Nebraska has built that program to fit the Big Ten a little bit better over the years, even though they're going through a lot of roster turnover too. They're bigger and they're stronger, especially on defense, than a lot of the Big 12 is, and certainly a lot of the Pac-12 is. And so that's going to be a bit of a grind for them. Nebraska is going to try to run the ball a lot, control the clock, and they're not going to want that fast. See, TCU can't do that. They can't slow Colorado. Nebraska can. They can slow them down a little bit. So I think they're going to hold it pretty close for all those reasons. But I do think Colorado.
It's one speed in the Big 12. It's go time.
It's go time. Yeah.
And the Vegas line is predicting it's going to be a tighter game. Your over-under's 59.5. I know in the NFL that would be a high-scoring game, but in college now, hey, the reality is if you hold somebody under 30, you're doing a good job defensively in NCAA football right now.
Oregon just scored 80 points in week 1 in a game.
Yeah.
To your point. Go ahead.
Now, what do you think about the rest of the Big 12? Because that was not a week to be held up in distinction in the Big 12. You had TCU fall into the Buffaloes. Texas Tech, the Red Raiders, they got lassoed by the Wyoming Cowboys, and Baylor getting beat by Texas State, the alma mater of one Lyndon Baines Johnson. I couldn't find a prominent player that went to Texas State, but LBJ went there. So
LBJ, that's good enough. That's a prominent guy.
Playing for LBJ. Took out the Baylor Bears.
The Big 12's in a tough spot now, and as we talked about last week, it kind of seeing at least ushering in a new era there as you see some of the Giants leave. It's interesting that in this transition year, it looks like they might have a rough go of it. Texas didn't really play as well as a lot of expected against a program like Rice. Definitely struggled out of the gate there. And so a lot of things happen, and Tech has to go and play Oregon this week, a team again that scored 80 last week. So they're a team that likes to get up and go just like every other team in the Big 12. The Pac-12 is similar in that way. You look at how USC set up to play, how Oregon set up to play. Chip Kelly's at UCLA. So
it's not a lot of defense.
Not a lot of defense going on. A lot of offense. You look at how Colorado plays. It's very similar to a Chip Kelly type offense, where it's fast paced, no huddle. Short passes, find speed and space, make a play. It's a lot of that. And they do it very, very well. But yeah, it is interesting. And Baylor, Baylor's got to be reeling at this point. Of course, they've got another tough game on their hands this week.
Yeah, it doesn't get easier. Their take on the Utah Utes, who had one of the bigger wins of week 1. And that's a quality team that you got to think that's going to put Baylor at 0-2, a bowl team from last year. They're currently only getting 26.4% of the betting money on them. So it's not going well for Baylor. A good academic school, but they're going the way that most good academic schools go in college football. They're looking like they're going to be losing to the Utes. The Utes will move to 2-0 probably. 7.5-point favorites. And it's a low line, actually. 47.5 points is your over-under line.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the other upset that we saw too. It wasn't just TCU. Last night, Clemson.
Yep.
Loses to Duke. And I mean, in dramatic, like, beatdown fashion. It was dramatic because it was so stark to see them dominated like that.
Mm-hmm. And we actually pointed out that game as being one of the few games with a Division I matchup, high-end Division I matchup, but that Clemson should, if Clemson's going to be anything, they have to beat down Duke. And it's not looking too good for Dabo Swinney and Cade Klubnik, his chosen quarterback, with the air raid offense. The air raid went flat.
It sure did. Yeah. And that was my wondering is, I remember we talked about this last week, how Cade Klubnik would play, knowing that he's going to get the start. And really, seeing as how, like I mentioned last week, the DJ experiment kind of failed. Can they get back off the schneid and return to what they had with Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence? And so far, and Deshaun Watson. And so far, it doesn't look like that. So we'll see, but I mean, 28-7, and they were inside not only the red zone, but the 15-yard line three times and only scored one touchdown.
Yeah. They drove the ball. They just didn't convert. Similar actually to Florida, because Florida with Graham Mertz, high-end top transfer, leaving Wisconsin to go to the greener pastures in Florida, get to Gainesville. He threw for 330 yards, but he was 1 of 13 on third downs. They just couldn't convert. Now, I don't know how much of this is the simple fact that college football doesn't have a preseason and you're just going week 1, go time. And when you think about it, colleges have a lot more turnover, obviously, than NFL teams, because even with the extra COVID year, you're still going to be turning over at least a quarter of your roster every year.
Yeah.
And with all the transfers, even more than that. So these first couple weeks, it's always a matter of feeling out. But I think what we're really finding out is Clemson, they were considered, okay, they're one of the elite programs. This is it. They're on that plane with the Ohio State, with Alabama, with Georgia. And maybe it was just the fact that they happened to recruit 2 elite quarterbacks who have shown themselves to be high-end quarterbacks, and Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. I mean, they've both taken teams to the playoffs in the NFL. Both are starting in the NFL. Both are making a lot of money.
Yep.
Maybe it wasn't that Clemson figured it out and had this tremendous unstoppable offense like an Ohio State who just re-racks quarterbacks, or an Alabama that just re-racks quarterbacks, and you have all the supporting cast. Maybe it's just they happen to stumble on 2 super elite quarterbacks, and that's really as simple as it is.
And really, we also touched on this last week too, but really losing Brent Venables at the same time as you lost Trevor Lawrence, it was a backbreaker. I mean, within a year of doing that, it was an absolute backbreaker for them. And it changed their defense. When you lose a longstanding coordinator like that, that's just so good. You know what I mean? That's going to leave a hole. And you can tell. I mean, you can tell these are like this game against Duke is a game that your defense, if they were back to that form that they were in those national title seasons, would still be able to really control this game. As it stands now, you lost the turnover battle. The time of possession was basically 50-50 with a team that you should dominate in the trenches. You should never have 50-50 time of possession with a team like that. No. And so a lot of those things are reprehensible. And to me, when this game marks that they don't just have a long ways, like this is going to be a long season. It's not just a long ways to go. This is going to be a long season for Clemson. And I think it puts Dabo on the hot seat. I think it's going to be that bad.
Well, and this is a team that's been banging the drum, asking for more money from the ACC, wanting to get a bigger share from the Atlantic Coast Conference because they are the straw that stirs the drink. And the other school that's been asking for more money, well, they can kind of keep asking for it, because Florida State did take down LSU, another game that was, relatively competitive. LSU didn't punch it in, and then Florida State kind of ran away with it.
Yeah, and Florida State is going to maintain that top 5 spot and probably climb the rankings as the weeks go on. Because if you look at their schedule, I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but listen to the next few games. Southern Miss, Boston College, Clemson. That one looked like a tough game, which doesn't look that tough anymore.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Duke, Wake Forest, Pitt, Miami, and then North Alabama, and they play Florida in the final week. Like, none of those, I think they're probably going to be favored in every single one of those games.
May well be. And right now, they have reached their highest ranking in the top 25 since peaking at number 2 back in September of 2016.
Yeah. That's a great number. Yeah.
That's
amazing.
It's a school that during the Bowden era, dominant program. You saw them every year. They were right
every
up there.
year. Yeah, every year.
Shows how easy it is for that to change. Nate, I'm scrolling the top 10 across the line, and these are all teams that are, the household names. Notre Dame, Tennessee, Washington, Penn State, USC, the Ohio State University, Florida State, Alabama, Michigan, and Georgia.
Yeah.
All the big boys. I mean, not exactly a surprise there. You can't say that any of the small schools, any of the group of 5 schools have stepped up there, but a little bit of transition, a little bit different mix than we've seen in the last few years.
Well, and you also know that that's going to change as time goes on. You know what I mean? Like Ohio State didn't look great in that opener. Did not look great in that opener. Penn State looked pretty darn good. So I wouldn't be surprised if they flip-flop at some point, especially if Penn State, of course, upsets Ohio State, and when they have a chance to play them at Penn State this year. So, that's going to be great. Washington, I don't know if they stay in the top 10. I really like Penix. I think he's great. I think he's a gamer. I think that's one of the ugly spots for Tom Allen and what's going on in Indiana, is that you had a guy like that and you let him walk. Just over an injury that clearly he overcame. It's just so unfortunate because Allen won, I think, 10 games that one year, and since then I don't think he's won 10 games collectively over the last 2.
Yeah, it's not all that dissimilar from the NFL now. If you have the quarterback figured out, you're going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
If you don't have the quarterback figured out, it's going to be a problem.
So that leaves you to wonder. I mean, the top school in the country has a lot of inexperience at quarterback.
Well, multiple schools. I mean, take a look at this top 10. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, all running in new quarterbacks.
Penn State, Tennessee, yeah. All of them.
So
Notre Dame.
It's definitely going to be something to watch. The school that gets the quarterback figured out first is probably going to be the one that is going to hold serve. And we're talking about the school that has the quarterback figured out. Well, that may be the Trojans. Your probable number 1 pick, Caleb Williams. He's taken on Stanford this week, the Cardinal.
Yeah.
And something that should be a pretty solid beatdown.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say so. They're a
29-point
line. Yeah. And talk about the percentage of the money in Vegas and online sports books. 94.3% of the money is going on the Trojans. 5.7% going on Stanford, with an over-under of 70.
Yeah, when it's a 30-point spread and you still have that much money going to the dominant team, that's saying something. That USC defense hasn't been perfect this year, but Williams and Lincoln Riley and all the playmakers they have on offense, I don't think it matters as long as they can just make a few stops. Because they are so good on offense. I have questions when they play a team like Utah that is so good at that bend don't break style defense, and eventually at that point we'll have Cam Rising back. So down the line they've got a few big games. Oregon is going to be a big game. Colorado might be an interesting game because that's a team that can run the track.
It looks like they can score too. Yeah.
Now, Colorado doesn't play a lick of defense. They forced some turnovers when they needed to, but I mean that game was all gas, no brakes by both offenses. I mean, Sonny Dake's offense had his way with that Colorado defense. I'd say they were about as expected. I don't expect the defense for the Buffaloes to improve dramatically, and that's why I don't think they're a serious contender even in the Pac-12, even after that one game, like some people are saying. But it's only been one game. It's like pump the brakes a little bit. I still expect them to drop at least 3 or 4 games this year.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of getting going and seeing, what they can accomplish. Talking about teams that were heading up last year and now are facing a little bit of a, hey, show me it's real challenge. KU, the Jayhawks, just a few minutes away from where I'm sitting, they welcome the Fighting Illini in.
Yeah.
Brett Vielma and the Illini come into Lawrence, a Friday night game. So the game may well already be over by the time people are seeing this. But it's going to be interesting. National TV, Big 12 against the Big 10. And this is a team that, Illinois, they are right there in that traditional Big 10 mode. Former Wisconsin head coach, former ill-fitted Arkansas coach Brett Vielma with the Illini, and he has all sorts of connections to KU's coach Lance Leipold. They were in Wisconsin together when Lance was coaching at smaller schools before he went to Buffalo to create his Division I resume with the Buffalo Bison. I think KU should be able to pull this one off, but definitely not the normal preseason chump game. This is going to be a pretty competitive game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so Illinois really since Bielema got there, basically, has been a really good program. Chase Brown, of course, left last year. I was surprised he didn't get drafted. Chase Brown looks really good. He's playing in Canada now. They can run the ball. Like you said, they've really built a strong, typical Big Ten, good on defense. 4-down lineman type defense. They'll run a lot of cover 2 at you, and they're going to stop the run and run the ball. And that's very, very, very Wisconsin. And so Bielema has built the same kind of thing there. I thought you put it perfectly when you said ill-fitted in the SEC. Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, Bielema is a heck of a coach. I mean, remember last year that team pushed Michigan, who ends up in the playoff, to a 3-point victory on a field goal that was no guarantee. So Illinois is no joke. And they're going to give KU all they got. And that's what, a 3.5-point game, I think, right now.
Yeah, 3-point game. Anybody's ball game.
Yeah, that's a coin flip. Look, you get 3 points for playing at home. So that what Vegas is telling you there is it's an even match. So home team automatically gets the field goal. That's the home team credit.
Not that it means everything, but the money is going with the Illini in this almost a border war. It's just a little bit away from sharing a border. Yeah. You have to borrow some of Missouri to share a border.
Until
58% of the money fall into the Illini.
Until Kansas wins and wins big, they're always going to be known as a basketball school. And so in these matchups, like even Illinois is people can close their eyes and they can picture that helmet with Illinois on the side, and they can't really close their eyes and picture the Jayhawk on the side, not unless you're from that area. And I think therein lies the issue with Vegas. A lot of people that are betting on that clearly aren't Big 12 people. They're clearly not from Kansas. There are millions and millions of people that throw money at that, and they're just looking at a number. And plus, I don't think that a lot of people are aware of how good either K-State or Kansas is, really.
No, I don't think so. I think people look at Kansas and just assume they're not going to be all that good. It was actually an easy pickup. If you just bet Kansas to cover last year, you would have been in really good shape the whole season.
Yeah. I mean, Jalen Daniels is a lot better than people think. I think he's a big unknown in the country. You don't hear a lot of talk about him, but he's a lot better than people think would expect out of that program. It's just simply headed since Leopold took over in a great direction, but still just is not really being talked about.
Yeah, and Jalen Daniels, probable to play. He's practiced each day this week. They held him out last week because he had missed some time with back spasms, only got one practice in, and they didn't feel like putting him out there in the game last week against, obviously inferior competition. Took on the Missouri State Bears. Not terribly concerned about losing that game.
Probably not. And I'm excited to see a little more out of Illinois quarterback Luke Altmaier. I mean, he looks pretty good. He's got really high marks from Pro Football Focus as far as like a potential draft pick down the road. And I think he's a pretty good prospect, and really in that same traditional Big Ten strong arm pocket passer type mold.
Yeah, I mean, here, look at this line for him last week: 18 of 26 for 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. You could look at an old Wisconsin line and say, yeah, that's a Brett Bielema quarterback. That's what they do.
Exactly.
Not throwing for 300 yards with Brett Bielema team.
No.
Well, hey, if we stay in the Big 12, at least for another year, next year, this is going to be a SEC matchup. I'd say your biggest game of the week, number 11, Texas, the Longhorns, taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide. It's the first time these two traditional powers have ever met while they were both ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, isn't that incredible? Of course, last year's game was just so good. Ewers looks like he's healthy, so that's great for Texas. The defense has got to play a little better than it against Rice, because Bama can run and throw the ball at a high level. And this is a typical Alabama team. I mean, it may not be a national title, lock type Alabama team, but it is a Nick Saban full of 5 stars team, and they're going to give you all they got. And I know, how much is Bama favored by in this one?
I am actually pulling it up right now.
Yeah.
The fans are excited. If you want to get a ticket to see this matchup, $162 get you into the stadium.
It's probably nosebleed seats at that one too.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not great.
Yeah, I got Alabama -7.
Yeah, and it's not going good for the Longhorns in the distribution of the money. 80.9% going Alabama, 19.1.
This one is in Tuscaloosa. I think a lot of people are looking at last year thinking like, oh, this is going to be, that Sark knows that offense, and you know what I mean, and he'll be able to coach him up and blah. That was a home game. Spirits were running high, high expectations coming off, that week 1 beat down last year. It's a little different heading into Tuscaloosa. I think they're gonna. I would take Alabama on the points in that one.
Oh, absolutely, and this is going to be really. I think it's talking about young quarterbacks, which there's a lot of them in college, especially early in the season.
Right.
Jalen Moreau. I mean, this is it. This is your real debut.
Yeah.
Getting out there against a legitimate national ranked team, a team that's predicted by almost everyone to be the champions of a major conference, Power 5 conference champion, according to almost every analyst in the Longhorns. This is going to be a good chance to see if Jalen can follow in the tradition of some of these recent Alabama quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. And if they can win this game and win it convincingly, it'll go a long ways for their ranking in the top 25 and the rest of their season to kind of, because I don't think we really know quite yet because of Milroe and because of a lot of people leaving for the NFL, and also because it seems like Georgia's kind of taking the mantle. You know what I mean? For all those reasons, I think there are finally some questions about this Alabama team, and this game against Texas will answer at least a few of those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to see some legitimate high-level games going on early because, you're not really learning much of anything taking on, and no offense to the great city of Murfreesboro, but the Middle Tennessee State University Blue Raiders aren't competition for Alabama. I mean, they just aren't.
No. Well, another game that I wanted to kind of look at next week was an interesting one that I don't think a lot of people are talking about: Wisconsin versus Washington State. I think, Wisconsin goes on the road to Washington State. They're a 4-point favorite. Their young quarterback looked a little shaky out of the gate. And while Cam Ward looked electric out of the gate for Washington State. What do you think about that one?
It's going to be another matchup. What wins? Is it grind it out, kind of beat them up, Big Ten style, or will the more aggressive run and gun style of the Pac-12 end up pulling it out? I mean, you're definitely seeing a lot of styles clash right now early in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Ward is exactly that. He's a mobile quarterback with a cannon for an arm, which you see a lot of nowadays. He put it this way: he threw for over 400 yards in that first game, and he also led the team in rushing. So there you have it. You can sum it up in just those two stats. Any other interesting games of note for week 2 for you?
You got a lot of matchups that are just basically glorified exhibition games.
Yeah.
Number 1, Georgia taking on the Ball State Cardinal.
So the
Ohio State taking on
that,
the Youngstown State Penguins.
On that Georgia game, the line is what, like, or the over under is like 54.5 or something like that. That's a weird, or maybe it's 59. That's a weird one. Because I think that, like, they're going to get up really early. Kirby Smart is not a real, like, rub it in kind of guy. They don't need a lot of style points in that game. They're not looking to improve in the ranking. It wouldn't matter if they won by 3. Well, it might, but you understand the point I'm making.
Yeah.
They're not going to win by 3. So I would imagine, they take their foot off the gas in the second half. They probably don't even throw a pass in the fourth quarter. And teams like basically that I would not take the over on this year, Michigan and Georgia. They're not teams that are going to rack up the score against inferior opponents. Not really.
I could definitely see that. K-State taking on a lesser school, but a school that can pull off some upsets occasionally. The men of Troy, the Troy Trojans.
Yeah.
K-State, a 16.5-point favorite, over under a 50.5. The Wildcats are getting almost 90% of the money. I mean, I think they're going to win, but I don't see that being a huge blowout because Chris Kleiman and K-State, not exactly a school that's going to go and run it up on somebody. They're more of that traditional Big Ten style with, kind of beat them up. We're going to win the game. We'll control the pace, but we may not run them out of the stadium.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Will Howard's not some electric quarterback. I mean, he's more of like a kind of a game manager. Kleinman is not a guy who's like a big run it up guy. They're pretty conservative all around, like at all the key spots. And so, I mean, I would expect K-State to win, but like 16.5, even against Troy. This is one of those cases where I think like that 90% of the money, it's more brand name, again, like we talked about before, related than anything else. Even though K-State's not a huge brand name, there's certainly more than the men of Troy.
Yes.
And so I think a lot of people are just seeing that, saying, "Oh, that's going to be a huge beatdown." Like you said, Troy's a pretty good football program for a small one. And I wouldn't be shocked if they come closer than 16. I also wouldn't be shocked if it's a blowout by more than 16. That's just one I probably wouldn't touch.
Yeah, no, it's not a great team to bet on.
No.
How about this? Big 10, Big 12, another matchup. State mandated. These two have to play every year. The Iowa Hawkeyes and the Iowa State Cyclones. 4-point favorite for Iowa. Both teams come in at 1-0.
Yeah.
It's
just, this one just doesn't move
even.
the needle,
Yeah.
It just doesn't move the needle. It's not one that I'm going to watch probably because it's that kind of rivalry game, but I don't know. Iowa doesn't move the ball much. I mean, against McNeese State, like you barely covered. And so like, they're just so typical, that Kirk Ferentz offense is just so two tight end typical. They're ultra Big Ten. I would say Iowa is now beyond Wisconsin, the pinnacle of the old school Big Ten football.
Yeah, and you know what? Iowa State not far behind. They're trying to bring the Big 12 back to the Big 8 days. They definitely slow it down.
Yeah,
they've managed to contain Brock Purdy. He's a more electric quarterback in the NFL than he was in college. The over/under for this game, give you an idea of what Vegas is projecting this game to be like. Doesn't seem like a college number. 36.5.
Yeah, 36.5. Yeah, exactly. That does not seem at all like a college number. But would you be shocked at all if they're under on that?
No, and I definitely wouldn't put any money on this game.
No.
57% of the money going on Iowa State, 43% on Iowa, and probably the vast majority of those people that are betting on this game live in Iowa.
Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is, it's interesting because if I had to bet on it, I'd probably go Iowa.
I think I'd go Iowa in the under. Another Big Ten team that's been a clown car on fire so far this year, Northwestern, the Wildcats.
Yeah.
This is, I think, if you're going to pick a mid-major team to beat a Power 5 school this week, here's your pick. The University of Texas El Paso Miners going up against those Northwestern Wildcats. UTEP's favored by 1.5 points. I think the Miners win. 80% of the money is going on Northwestern. That school it's in such dysfunction. I don't see how they can circle the wagons and win. They may not win a game all year.
You got to feel for Northwestern football, right? I mean, look, Pat Fitzgerald was the best thing that happened to that program over the last decade and a half, and also they did the right thing.
Yeah.
See, those two things are definitely true at the same time. And unfortunately, the second one being true means this season was lost already.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was lost before they started.
Unfortunately.
And you know what? I don't think that the athletic department nor the boosters at Northwestern terribly care. They're building a new football stadium. Dan Ryan, who is a mega donor to Northwestern, huge entrepreneur in automotive service contracts. Yeah. He's basically buying a new stadium for them, and their current stadium, it's small, but it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean, it's there on the lake. It's one of the prettiest campuses in the country.
It's
but
it's gorgeous.
You know, they're just not good, and you know, they're kind of like Vanderbilt.
Well, they have
a good year every 10 years. They're okay.
Yeah, they have a special legacy in sports, really, because look, some of the best sports journalists of all time went to Northwestern. And so that Medill School of Journalism is prestigious in our realm. It just is. And beyond that, like you said, they've had years. They've had ups, they've had downs. And they're probably one of the best academic schools in the country, and definitely one of the best in the Big Ten. And so they have a place. It's funny, I read an article earlier today about, like, would the Big Ten ever get rid of a program? And it mentioned specifically Indiana and Northwestern. And I kind of chuckled a little bit because it's like, no, not at all. It's never going to happen. If they were to get rid of one, it would be an also ran that was added in the last expansion, like Maryland or Rutgers. But I don't think that's going to happen either.
No, I don't think so. It happened in the past. The University of Chicago used to be part of the Big Ten.
Yeah,
but
that's
a
little different.
Long time ago.
There's no school in the conference right now that is like diminutive by comparison, and it's clear that everything's going to run away from them, like in that scenario, even back then as it developed.
No. I mean, I think those days are gone. I think you're just going to see more and more concentration, and then eventually we'll get down to 4 mega conferences, and you'll have more, like we talked about, more scheduling pods where those mega conferences go to 14 pods, and you'll probably eventually see some intra-conference play. So it'll end up being like the AFC playing against the NFC, and maybe this year the Big 12 Central is facing off against the Big 10 East. And that's coming. It's just a matter of time because there's so much money. The networks are just falling over themselves to get more inventory, more product. And heck, what products do you want more right now than live sports, considering the writers are on strike and the actors are on strike?
Well, and on top of that,
there's something.
And on top of that, and I've been saying this for a long time, pretty much since the advent of TiVo, it was always going to go this direction because you cannot fast forward this programming. Specifically, you cannot record and then fast forward a game because of your cell phone. If you're a fan of a team, it's going to go off an alert with a score, and then it's not going to be as intriguing to watch. Now, I've recorded and watched games, and don't get me wrong, I have. There are also all the highlights, the whole game full of highlights, a little snipped down version of the game. It takes 35 minutes to watch. It's available online half the time if it's a big game. And so for all those reasons, if you're watching the game, you're watching the ads. And I think that's the big thing that so many people are missing. And like, well, why are these TV contracts getting so big? That's why these TV contracts are getting so big, because there is no other platform that these companies can reliably advertise on that people are going to watch. Even YouTube, when they advertise on, has a skip button after 5 seconds for most ads. And it's pretty expensive to get rid of that skip button. So only huge conglomerate companies or Fortune 500 companies are getting rid of the skip button on YouTube. Because of how many plays it has to get and blah blah blah. And so you cannot fast forward sports, live sports. There's just nothing like it. There's no other programming like it. Dancing with the Stars, you get to fast forward. You know what I mean? It's not the same thing. And the only other thing kind of that I wanted to touch on was, of course, back to Colorado. Deion's presser after the game.
Well, that's going to be must-see TV all season.
All season, I agree.
He put it out on the line and said, okay, y'all thought I was going to lose. Now what?
Now what? Right. He kept receipts. He called out specific reporters. I think that, it's going to be about him for most of the season, but I do wish that I'd say this. I think he missed the opportunity to be a unifier and a leader in that. I think he's still a leader, but like to really step up, because that wasn't just a big win for him or his boys. That wasn't just a big win for HBCUs. That was a big win for Colorado. That was a big win for Boulder. That was a big win for that community, that team that went 1-11, that program. And there was very little recognition to any of that. And beyond that, like trying to bring arguments that have nothing to do with the football game that also aren't categorically correct. Like 75% of the roster is African-American. Look around. That's most of college football, especially the top 25. That's not a unique number to Colorado. Turning over most of the roster is something that's never been done before. No, it's not. It's been done a lot in recent years. That Mel Tucker year in Michigan State. So I think just bringing irrelevant arguments into it in order to frame an argument with really no one that made the argument in the first place is something that I think he's got to learn to curb. He's great in the press conference, but at some point, is he going to get a foot and mouth disorder here?
Well, you know what? You're not going to hear too many coaches that say, hey, we were supposed to win. Everybody was pulling for us. This is what we expected.
Right.
Here in Kansas City, the Chiefs talk about everybody doubting them. It's us against the world.
Yeah.
That's old school.
That's great. That's
great. Straw man. Everybody's against us. It's us against them. We need to pull together because everyone thinks we're going to lose. I mean, every coach does that. They take the bullets and the players can draft behind it. If Colorado keeps winning, they'll be able to keep coming. And you mentioned, hey, are there other schools that have had turnovers in their roster like Colorado? Well, there is actually. The second biggest turnover on a roster this year, G.J. Kinney, the new head coach of your Texas State Bobcats, like we mentioned earlier, living up to the proud legacy of LBJ, he brought in 53 new players, second only to the 86 new players brought in by Primetime. And he's going to take those Texas State Bobcats in all probability to 2-0. They're taking on the University of Texas San Antonio Roadrunners. Meet.
Wow.
And we'll see what happens. The Roadrunners are favored, though, 12.5-point favorites. So we'll see if Nebraska can pull it off.
Nebraska turned over a lot of its roster, too, when Rule came in. I want to say they I don't know what their number was, but I think it's probably pretty close to that. I bet you they were third.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of schools that have had 20, 30.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. This is the time.
Transfer portals. It's a different ballgame.
This is the time of like you said. These things are all year to year almost. And what a perfect time too for Deion Sanders to be doing what he's doing, for Prime to be, because there's not another time where this would be all that I mean, as possible as it is right now, where you can get so many great athletes to a small school. You know, he's going to be able. That's the magical thing, is that if he keeps winning, the thing just recruits itself. You know, that's the best thing they got going for him, because if they keep winning, it's going to be 5-star city. It just is, because every kid's going to want to play for him, both in high school and in the transfer portal.
And they'll open up Texas as a recruiting venue even more next year.
For sure.
Because you're jumping into the Big 12, so you're moving more into that middle of the country. Colorado can still draw the West Coast, and you're still going to have Arizona and Utah, so you can drag those West Coast players in, but now Texas and Oklahoma are going to be open to you, so
it's going to
definitely get some more players, and even Florida in the Big 12. Central Florida going to be in the Big 12. So
next year, when all this movement happens, I just don't know. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be a little clunky, would be my guess to start.
It's going to be weird. I mean, the traditional rivalry of Iowa State against the University of Central Florida Golden Knights just isn't going to have a great ring to it, you know.
That USC Rutgers game, I'm looking forward to that one.
It's definitely a different era. It's not what college football was traditionally. The traditional games will stand out even more now.
Yeah, they will. But here's the other thing, too. There are some really good games born of this, though. Am I looking forward to USC in Piscataway? Not really. Am I looking forward to USC in the Big House? 100%. You know what I mean? 100%. Am I looking forward to USC in the Horseshoe? Absolutely. Or in Camp Randall, or Kinnick at night? Are you kidding? Yes. Bring it on. So most of this is great. I mean, most of it is just made for TV. There's just some things where the travel and the schedule, I can't imagine. I just how that's going to shake out for student athletes, right? I doesn't seem like their time's really all that flexible in a lot of cases.
Well,
how much are they athletes? I'm probably giving more there than I need to. But
being a product of the Ohio State University system, class schedules are pretty easy to work around. Hey, what we haven't mentioned, which is good. This is a credit to the sport. We haven't mentioned yet that the average starter for the Ohio State University, according to our friends at CBS Sports, the average starter is pulling in over $500,000 in NIL money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different ball game in more ways than one.
It 100% is, and I will not. I'm a dog with a bone, and I will not let it go. I just, for the life of me, cannot understand how you saw this coming for 15 years and put nothing in place to make sure that commercial interest meant commercial interest. You were always going to get to this moment. You know what I mean? After the O'Bannon brothers, did their lawsuit, you were always going to get here, and this is what we have now. It'll be, you can't, and the thing is, you can't undo it. It's going to be really hard to slap any kind of regulation on this and stop this from happening. So now it's just, basically semi-professional football.
Oh, very much. A totally different era. There's nobody that's looking to report you for a violation because somebody bought the athlete a hamburger.
And isn't that
pulling down $500,000, you can buy some hamburgers.
Isn't that laughable? Yeah, exactly. That we're still reaching back to years ago when a coach, bought a kid a hamburger. Meanwhile, that same coach can literally contact a friend of his that owns a business to getting a bidding war for a player that he wants to recruit against a different school. That's allowable. Yep. But the cheeseburger, we're going to have to draw a line somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, Pete Carroll's saying, hey, okay, how about you back off on me a little bit now, because we were just giving away houses.
Yeah, exactly. Just giving away houses. And should Reggie Bush be a little vindicated at this point? You know what I mean? I think he should. I think he should. Yeah, because this has been going on. Let's be honest. This has been going on for a long. We pretty much had the evidence it went on with Cam Newton.
Sure.
You know what I mean? This has been going on for a long time, and now it's just on the up and up. And I just wish that it didn't translate straight from like, we don't want boosters paying players to like, oh, you own a business and you're a booster, pay the player. You know what I mean? Yeah. it didn't need to do that. So
Yeah, what happened to the old days when Sooner Motors in Oklahoma just gave a starting offensive lineman a job as a car porter, cleaning cars for the lot that just happened to pay him, $80,000.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
He washed some
See,
cars during the summer.
but you
Where's
bring
the
up
tradition of college football?
But you bring up a great point there that car dealership actually has a commercial interest. So am I mad if a Sooner wide receiver, is the face of that car dealership?
No, now it's perfectly legal.
No, not at all. What I don't like is said booster owns a dry cleaning transactional company where he works his company is like a medium that helps a software solution for dry cleaning companies or something. And he's paying this player. That business has no commercial interest, has nothing to do with his name, his image or his likeness, and everything to do with the dude that owns the business wanted that kid to play there.
Well, to be fair, that goes on in all levels of sports because I'm still trying to figure out what the marketing incentive is for GEHA Field at Arrowhead Field at GEHA Stadium, considering GEHA is a government health insurance that can't be purchased by anyone and is one of the policies that government employees get to pick. I'm not sure how to justify massive advertising of the Chiefs, but
that doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
well,
but we're in the world where it doesn't make sense, right?
No,
so.
There's a lot of money though. As we're winding it down here, one more game I wanted to highlight because, man, this is a rough start to the season. These guys, speaking of NIL money, I hope these guys all get maybe like a gift card to the Avenue Mall in beautiful Murfreesboro, Tennessee, just to go, hey, have some fun, get some clothes, because, I don't think the Blue Raiders are anywhere close to the Ohio State Buckeyes, $500,000 a throw in NIL money. Maybe these guys can get a couple of $100 gift card to the Avenue Mall, and the Avenue Mall could definitely sponsor College Gridiron. It's a nice shopping mall. It's right across the street from Middle Tennessee State University. The Blue Raiders travel just about a state away.
Yeah,
they take on Eli Trinkowitz and your Missouri Tigers. Missouri 20.5-point favorites. So over under of 48. I think everyone in Missouri would like to see the Tigers run it up here because first week, not super exciting for Missouri. They jumped up, scored 28 points in the first half, only scored 7 in the second half. It wasn't a exactly inspiring performance. Missouri looking for a kind of a breakout year for Eli Drinkwitz and see the recruits actually result in performance on the field. Brady Cook, Sam Horn, it looks like Brady Cook's going to be the quarterback. It's going to be an interesting game to see because I want to see Missouri just throttle the Blue Raiders. And then I just feel bad for the Blue Raiders because, man, they may give up 100 points and start the season out 0-2. It's not going to be a good year for the Sun Belt.
It'll be a nice payday for the athletic department.
Yeah, no, they're pulling in some money. It's definitely a good year, but
they'll make some money.
Things downshift quite a bit for the Blue Raiders because then they take on Murray State and Colorado State. So then they get back into the game.
And the other thing here too is I don't know what the line is on this game. You said 20 and a half. Okay, that I mean, I don't know because you got Missouri has K-State the next week. And so you got to imagine they're looking at that. They've been game planning for that K-State game already. And so there's it's a big year, like you said, for Drink. Isn't it his third year at this point?
Yeah. And he's been living at the 500 mark. It's some people are projecting him to go as good as 9-3 this year.
So this is a big game.
That makes next week a must-win game if you're going to go 9-3.
Must win. And I think you got to put style points in it. I really do. You got to make an example of them because K-State's watching that game too. And you don't want to eke by Middle Tennessee and let them cover the spread and then welcome K-State the next week. You know what I mean? You want to win in dominant fashion and have a good feeling and not play your starters in the fourth quarter. That kind of game going into that next week against K-State because There you have an opportunity. All of a sudden you're 2-0, and you look good against. Not, I mean, I agree they didn't look great against South Dakota, like you said, but they won 35-10. All that you look at the schedule, that's all anyone's going to look at.
Mhm.
And then Missouri against Middle Tennessee, another game you could dominate. If you win that K-State game, you're probably going to jump into the rankings at that point. I mean, you definitely would. And then it's off to the races, because then you get Memphis, and then you get Vanderbilt, and then LSU. And we don't even know LSU right now. We're going to find out in the weeks to come. But
if they beat K-State, I mean, you have 5-0 pretty much in hand then.
Right.
And even if you lose to LSU, you should beat Kentucky and you should beat South Carolina. You're 7-1. So
yeah,
that's where that 9-3 comes from, because 2 tough games, Georgia, Tennessee, but then 2 winnable games to end the year. And now we're looking way ahead. But Florida and Arkansas. So exactly. Eli has a chance to pull it together. That would be the best year Missouri's had in a long time.
Yeah, like you said, I think the schedule sets up pretty well. Look, even if they lose to K-State, the schedule sets up pretty well. It's just if they win, it's going to be so much of a better season no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, they beat K-State, you're probably bowl eligible before you have a significant game.
Yep, for sure.
So,
sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think that's enough for week 2. There's always plenty to talk about because there's a lot of games in college football. Alex and I will be back here on the Fired Up Network.
Hey everybody, this is Joseph Hasek, and welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to a special Friday afternoon edition of the flagship show, Fired Up Live.
Friday.
He's already partying. He's already partying. Look, and in honor of last night's NFL kickoff, I had to bring the Buffalo Bills jersey. And by the way, it's LaShawn McCoy because Buffalo and Philadelphia are meeting in the Super Bowl. I know this is CFL No Yards, but I got to go here. I digress. Buffalo, if they're going to make the Super Bowl, they have to play an NFC East team. They played Washington, lost. They played Dallas twice and lost. They played the Giants and lost. The only logical team is the Philadelphia Eagles, and Philadelphia, home of brotherly love. They're going to lay, it's WrestleMania, right down for the Buffalo Bills, who are going to stomp all over them in honor of WrestleMania 40 next year at Lincoln Financial Field. I digress. Welcome to CFL No Yards, Week 14. Before we get to Week 14, with John Freeman Nelson, the Hall of Famer of OSG Sports in Atlanta, Labor Day weekend. What matchups there? We'll start in honor, I have to say, in honor of your good friend Phil Cantor, who's a Saskatchewan Rough Rider.
Jason's the Saskatchewan Rough Rider fan.
Sorry, Jason. He wants to move to Saskatchewan. That's what I heard. I'm trying to get him some sort of like triple long johns and all that, because he doesn't know how cold it is. He doesn't know, all right?
Oh.
But let's talk about that game, Saskatchewan-Winnipeg. Overtime, Saskatchewan upsetting Winnipeg.
32-30. Who would have figured? But then I know that we're going to be talking about the reverse fixture coming up in just a sec. Yeah, they got Zach Collaros. They beat him for the first time since he joined Winnipeg back in 2019. And you look at that now, and that's going to get. I mean, Saskatchewan in the power rankings was at 6-5, was lifted up to number 4 with that win. What do they do for a return at Winnipeg? We'll find out, and we'll talk about it in just a little bit.
All right, and another game last week. We got they're in rematch again this week. Calgary, Edmonton, and we spoke off here. You knew Edmonton's going to find a way to not win, to lose it.
Yeah, I mean, drama. A 22-point fourth quarter for Calgary going up against the Double E. So, yeah. If there's a way for Edmonton to lose, Edmonton will find a way to lose. Trust me.
It's much like Hamilton, close. But Argos, basically every game this year, come the third, fourth quarter, Chad Kelly, the MVP of the CFL, all right? Chad Kelly comes out and drills them in third, fourth quarter. Argos win going away, and Chad Kelly signing an extension. And I also spoke to you off air here. Imagine Jim Kelly goes to 4 straight Super Bowls, and, well, we won't say what happens. But Chad Kelly appears at the Grey Cup, already wins one. Argos, really best team in the league, should be in the Grey Cup this year also.
Yeah.
Could he be back to back? And then next year, let me fill my full. It's the 24. Chad Kelly, 12 times 2 is 24. Argos.
Now you're going all numerology on me.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. But what do you think of Argos Hamilton?
I mean, 41-28. I mean, it was the first quarter. And sometimes when you are a good team and you're that team at the top of the ladder and you punch somebody right in the neck, right out of the blocks, then you take away all of their hope. And I think that you've seen that with what's been going on with Toronto. And, you win by 13, you kind of cruise. And, good that Hamilton found out about A.J. Ouellette, but it was too late. But no, Toronto's focused now on this game with Montreal. Toronto rolling at 9-1.
And please address him as Thor, not A.J. Ouellette. Thor. All right, let's get to first matchup, Week 14, Saturday. Big game. Ottawa having a bye week, and big game here. Hamilton, Ottawa. Let's see if Ottawa, they play in Ottawa. So what do you expect on that one? It's Friday at 7:30.
I mean, 7 games left on the schedule for the Red Blacks, and they've got a 5-game losing streak. They're rested. Ticats are coming from a short week, so I'm going to go with Ottawa here to put that 5-game losing streak away.
I agree with you. Now, I don't know why the CFL doesn't do more of this. Saturday, September 9th, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock. 1 o'clock game, Montreal and the Argos at BMO Field. It looks like it's going to be like about 25 degrees. This week we had a scorcher here, upwards of 46 Celsius in Toronto. That will, burn your Fishneris. All right, so there you go. All right, John, who do you like in this one?
After Winnipeg and BC lose, it's an opportunity for Montreal, but it's a chance for them to beat a top-tier team. I don't think they can do it. I think Toronto goes to 10-1, and I think it's probably going to. You've got a home and home with Montreal. I think that Toronto takes them both and finishes these next 2 weeks 11-1. I think Toronto takes care of business.
All right. Then you got 4 o'clock on Saturday. Again, a rematch. Saskatchewan, Winnipeg. And this time in Winnipeg, Winnipeg's going to be fired up, no pun intended, for this one. What do you say?
Oh man, I think that they're probably going to end up splitting this home and home. They could have been the first team in the league to lock up a playoff spot. I think that they'll try to get that win in the rematch to get to 10-3, and I think they'll do it.
I agree. And the last game of Week 14, a rematch, Calgary into Edmonton, but this time in Edmonton, do we have flip-flop 1-1?
I don't. I'm torn. I'm admittedly very torn. Trey Ford has turned into must-see TV for Edmonton, and I think that it's going to be really, really interesting to see him continue to grow. But I mean, you have a demoralizing loss like that. You know that Calgary's going to want to sit there and ride off of that one at 4-8. So I'll go Calgary getting the sweep.
And like I mentioned, 1, 4, and 7 Saturdays. I know you have college football in the States, but if you're a CFL fan, and especially when there's hockey's not here and all that, they should do. Do you agree they should do it more often?
I think it's a great way to market what's going on up there with the CFL, and I think that in lieu. And the thing is that you want to stay away from that Sunday game with the National Football League, so that leaves you Friday and Saturday basically to cram all of your stuff in. Because unless you start earlier than Monday Night Football and do something dinner time-ish, you're not gonna want to monkey with Sunday, and you're not going to want to do anything on Monday. So that leaves you that opportunity to sit there and go Friday. If you go Friday doubleheader, Saturday mop it up, and then that way you take care of your grid. I think that means that you can own those 2 windows when it comes to professional football.
I think they should do more of 1, 4, and 7 Saturdays. All right. So I mentioned last week you're going to give the juice box of the week for NFL here. So did you study up on your juice boxes?
Well, you know me. Me and juice boxes, we always want to sit there and keep our distance. I am an individual that sits there and wants to make a point with juice boxes and go, This is what I see, not necessarily what I know. So, which one are you hunting for in this particular case?
Well, there's only one team in the National Football League, and I'm going to bring in Chris Berman. He'll tell you. Yeah, Chris is back there right now. Chris, we got Monday Night Football, first week of the season in New York, New Jersey area. New York, New Jersey getting their quarterback Aaron Rodgers against the number one quarterback, well, actually number 2 or number 3 quarterback in the National Football League, Josh Allen. Chris Berman, I give it to you. Let's circle the wagons. Buffalo and the Jets, juice box of the week.
Yeah, Buffalo's at a minus 145 there, and we always know no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, especially in a week 145, minus 145. Jets are plus 121. I don't think football's
Wait a minute. Wait. What's your voice? I thought I had Chris Berman. Then I have John Nelson. Is it Berman Johnson or Nelson? What is going on here?
Berman John. I was in a transitional element, and then you cut me off. Bills are a minus 145. Jets are a plus 121. I don't think that A-Rod can get it done in week 1. He's still trying to figure out his weapons. Where Buffalo does have it figured out, I think Buffalo gets it done at a minus 145.
All right, and I agree. No wonder you're the Hall of Famer here. One other thing: 5 years, $170 million to Bosa. First of all, defensive player, 5 year, and I'm not saying is he worth it or whatever, but where are these used to be quarterbacks making $50-80 million? Now it's defensive. The running backs are complaining like crazy. What's going on in the National Football League?
You're securing the asset. We're always talking about securing the asset and turning it into business decisions. So hey, if they thought that it was worthy at the time, they're going to have that kind of an investment, and I wouldn't worry about it. Worry about wins and losses. Don't necessarily worry about where your team is spending money, especially if you want to keep one of the premier defensive players locked in on your roster.
While I'm securing an asset here, John Nelson has signed a newly re-signed 5-year, a lot of zeros.
A 5-year multi-Canadian tire butt contract with the Fired Up Network is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I threw in a Walmart gift card. All right, so there you go. All right, we're thinking of you, Giancarlo Lino. This is why we're doing a show here on Friday afternoon. Usually we do Saturday or Friday soccer show, but we'll be back with the soccer show next week. But John, tell everybody how they could get a hold of you.
Easiest way is right there on the Twitters at OSG Nelson, and it is Cute Sports Guy on the gram. Soccer Down Here, daily radio, 9 a.m. until 11 something, until we stop talking, Monday through Friday. And we catch up with everybody around the world of sports on the OSG Sports app as well, available iOS and Android. Soccer Down Here, available iOS and Android. Go to our friends at Spreaker. It's like speaker with an R in the middle, and do your search for OSG Sports and Soccer Down Here if you have an iPhone. But Android users, go to the Google Play Store and download all of our stuff. And right there is Book 6, Noble Strong, Lessons in Destiny. You can do an Amazon search and search for the book or search for me. Great story about a great family in a very, very tough situation. The battle, one of the worst battles that you could ever have for a family. At the same time that the gentleman there on the cover wanted to keep coaching and chase after a championship and be a vessel for a larger message. So do Noble Strong search or John Nelson search, Jon John, on the Amazons to get book number 6 right there.
All right, so today's special show on Friday, we got you covered with the CFL, college football, NFL, you name it, with John Freeman Nelson, the Hall of Famer of OSG Sports. Thanks a lot, John. Hello, everybody. This is Joseph Hasek, and welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to a special edition of Fired Up Live, and welcome to NFL Blitz. You've seen him before, Steve Carney of Tampa Bay, and we have a three-time, yes, Booker T, Super Bowl champion, does not want to show his face because he's driving, all right? You better pick the Buffalo Bills, or else, never mind. It's Randy Cross. Randy, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, Joe. I'm doing real good. I can see you, though.
Yeah, well, you know, how do I look? I haven't seen you in 6 months. Look, I haven't shaved or anything. How do I look? Do I look better than Steve Carney?
You look pretty good. I got to tell you, Joe. I mean, Steve is Steve. Yeah, you could use a new jersey, but outside of that, you look pretty good.
Well, you know what? I had to wear it's Buffalo and it's LaShawn McCoy because I'm going to say it right off the bat. Super Bowl pick are the Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles, and for the first time ever, the Buffalo Bills are going to circle the wagons.
Yeah.
And I'm going to party like it was 1999. All right. So I'll start. I was going to end up with.
Which is the last time Buffalo made the playoffs, right, Joe?
No, they made the playoffs last year. All right. So I'm going to ask you. Usually I ended off with this, but Randy, since you started it, what's your Super Bowl pick?
Well, I think the NFC side, I like San Francisco. I think they're the most talented team, and I think they're going to get lucky enough and not get injuries. And I agree with you on the AFC side. I think what you saw last night was a bit of a preview. Kansas City is really, really good, but they're just not as good as last year. I think that gives Buffalo a pretty good opening to be the AFC representative.
And, of course, you're picking San Fran over Buffalo, right?
Well, of course, Joe. Come on.
Come on. You see, I thought you're not biased there. Next time when you come on here, show your face so at least I can... All right, Steve, go ahead. Who's your Super Bowl pick?
Yeah, well, I think the Niners getting number 6.
Number 6. Well, I want number 1, but go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very tough for Buffalo to get number 1 because I'm actually going to go off the board on the AFC side. A lot of people picking Buffalo. A lot of people thinking that maybe Joe Burrow and company in Cincinnati end up going back. I'm going to take another young quarterback that has a great receiving core and a fantastic running back. I'm taking the Los Angeles Chargers to make the Super Bowl with Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler and company. I think they make the Super Bowl, and I think it is an all-California Super Bowl. I agree with Randy. San Francisco, especially if they can keep Brock Purdy healthy, I really do think that San Francisco is the team to beat in the NFC. So I'm going all Cali with the Chargers and the Niners.
In Vegas. By the way, Steve, for that comment, take yourself off the screen. I don't want to see your face either. All right. So no, come on, Steve. All right. Randy, let me ask you this. Brock Purdy, story of last year and then getting injured and all that. Do you think he could replicate what he did last year?
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to, Joe. I think it was amazing what he was able to accomplish. You know, we don't appreciate when guys can basically transition to the NFL fairly smoothly. And he was able to do what he did at Iowa State and then do it in the NFL. That's kind of how he plays. He's never been an injury-prone guy. I know San Francisco's had a history of having injuries at the quarterback position, and he's coming back from a Tommy John. But I think they've got an excellent offensive line that's got one sort of maybe at right tackle, and we'll see how that works out for them protection-wise. But, you know, he's got that ability, and we talk about this all the time, especially with your guy, Zach. He has the ability to not only run to run, but he can run to pass. And that's hard to find. And he kills defenses when he gets out of the pocket and makes them pay when he gets out of the pocket, not with his feet, but with his arm.
All right. So,
hey, Randy, I have a question about the NFC South. You know, you're an NFC South guy. I live in an NFC South town. You know, it's been the Tom Brady show the last 3 years, but now with Brady retired and the way things are looking in those four towns with those 4 teams, is there been a bigger question mark for a division than what we're seeing out of the NFC South this year?
I think you're absolutely right, and you don't need more proof of that than the fact that some people are actually picking the Falcons to win that division.
Do you think 7 and 9, or I should say, maybe 8 and 9 wins that division this year?
8 and 9. I was going to say 9 and 8 will win that division. And of all those teams, I would have the most faith in the guy that's been there the shortest, in Sean Payton in New Orleans, making something happen.
Wow. All right. So other than, you know, you're picking the 49ers and the Eagles, tell me 1 or 2 other teams in the NFC that could surprise that nobody else is talking about? Because everybody is talking about San Fran, Eagles, maybe Dallas or whatever. But
Yeah.
you got Jerry Jones there, whatever. But give me one or two teams that nobody else is talking about.
Well, I'm not a fan of the D word, so you won't hear me say that. But I'll give you another D word, and you saw them last night, Detroit Lions. I was poo-pooing a lot of people talking about Detroit this and Detroit that. Man, they look like if they can avoid the injury bug, they've got the raw talent. And hey, they've drafted in the top 5 of the draft for the last 20 years, so they should have a lot of talent backed up. I'd say look out for them. And the Vikings are another team in that division that I kind of like. I think Seattle's going to be a little bit dangerous out west, but it's the NFC's not going to be quite as sexy as the AFC, but there's nothing new about that. AFC's always got the flash.
All right, Steve, anybody in the NFC you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks with a lot of teams in the NFC, and a lot of it surrounds, can guys stay healthy? I agree with Randy. Minnesota, especially if you can get Justin Jefferson going early. I mean, he's got all the chance of breaking like every one of Megatron's single season records. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible what he is like. I think if really good 1-2 punch for Geno Smith, and will keep defenses honest. Here's a defense that I don't think anybody is looking at, but I think could end up having one of the best seasons of all this year, and that's the Washington Commanders. They're so good defensively. They're not very good. They're not a very good offensive team, and especially if Terry McLaurin's turf toe, which he's already dealing with, causes him to miss some significant time. But I think that defense could really wow people this year. So give me the Washington Commanders defense.
All right, before we talk AFC, Randy, I'm going to ask you this. 20 years ago or 25 years ago when you were playing, did you ever think of somebody coming to you and saying, I'll give you a 5-year contract worth $300 million?
God, I wish somebody had said that. I wish somebody had said I got a 5-year contract worth $3 million. Yeah, it's.
What was the highest you made? What was the highest you made? Because I think the highest you made is 1/4 of Joe Burrow, right?
Not even close. My highest salary was in 1988. I made $600,000, and I was the 3rd or 4th highest paid lineman in the league.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember hearing Ian Beckles, my longtime coworker here in Tampa, talking about when he came into the league in 1990, and the amount of money that he was being paid at that point, and going, wow, you make more doing radio now than you did when you were working at the NFL and you were at the highest level of professional football. It's just absolutely amazing how much money. I would be perfectly happy with a 5-year deal for $375,000. Let's put it that way.
Listen, Steve, Randy knows this. I signed the checks and gave Steve a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
All right?
Unfortunately, they're all in front of the decimal point.
Yeah, well,
That's right.
Don't tell anybody that. Don't tell anybody that. All right, we'll close it out. Randy, give me your thoughts on the AFC occurrence. Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati, take them out. What other team can Jacksonville? Let's talk about Jacksonville. You think they take another step?
Well, that depends on their quarterback. And can Trevor Lawrence keep kind of being that guy and keep progressing the way he has? He had a good year last year. I'm looking for that to happen. I think a young quarterback, and that's going to be dangerous, as he always has been, is Justin Herbert. I mean, the Chargers are going to be the truth. They're going to be a really tough out. I think that's going to be a team that, I know sometimes the West Coast football tends to be a little bit of the witness protection program, but there's some teams out there that I don't think you can ignore, especially in the AFC.
All right, Steve, do you agree?
I agree completely. I mean, that's why I have the Chargers making the Super Bowl. Here's the most interesting story that'll come out of the AFC this year, and you're going to find it out early. Is what is the relationship going to look like in New York between Aaron Rodgers, the media, and the Jets if they start out 1-3? Because they have just an absolute bear of a schedule to start things with. Of course, some Buffalo Bills on Monday night for week 1. They have to go to the Cowboys for week 2. They've got the Patriots. Of course, Bill Belichick is on the hot seat. Oh yeah, and then they've got Kansas City, and then the Broncos, the new look Broncos with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. They could be 1-4, and I think that there could be some serious animosity going on in New York.
Hard Knocks has bought a lot of goodwill, but it also there's nothing worse or more deadly than the New York market with expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So Randy, let's close it out with this, and that's a good first game, good matchup there. San Fran travels to Pittsburgh. The glory days, AFC champion, NFC champion. Who I know. Put your unbiased cap on, all right? Unbiased, because I know you're going to pick San Fran. But San Fran, Pittsburgh, what do you expect?
I expect not a whole lot of scoring involved. Whatever the so-called over-under is, I'd be tempted to go under, like 17-13, 17-14, that kind of a game. And probably, I would say, in this game, at least 8 to 9 sacks between the two teams. It's going to be a bloody nose, but I think the Niners will win.
All right, Randy, give me your pick of the week here, because I know Steve bets millions and millions of his Fired Up Network money on picks. So give me your pick of your week.
Jets over Buffalo Monday night.
All right, bye, Steve. All right. No wonder you didn't. I broke the camera before you started.
Yes.
All right, Steve.
You want Stone Cold Lock of the Week? My Stone Cold Lock of the Week is the Washington Commanders over Arizona without Kyler Murray. Who is the quarterback in Arizona? I think it's Josh Dobbs, but yeah, you've got to take the Commanders here early. I think the defense is going to be like as I mentioned, I'm really excited to watch the Commanders defense, and with a new owner and all sorts of you want to talk about building goodwill in a city where the owner of their team has not had a lot of goodwill. They've certainly turned that around very quickly. So yeah, give me the Commanders at home over Arizona.
All right, Randy, final question for you. Tell everybody what you're doing. And next time, hopefully next week or a couple weeks, we'll see everybody's clamoring in Canada to see Randy Cross's beautiful hair, man. Hair,
yeah.
Steve, beautiful hair, beautiful face. But tell everybody.
Get the brisket out, Cross.
Yeah.
I was going to ask him that. That was my last question. I goes, Randy. Randy's known for his eating, his everything. What do you have? It's week 1 specialty. Come on, Randy.
Especially at my house tomorrow or Sunday when I get home is going to be a little pork belly.
Don't talk about me like that. Come on. All right. So Randy, tell everybody what you're doing nowadays, and tell them how they can get a hold of you.
RandyCross.com is the website, and I think the Randy Cross FB on Twitter. And tomorrow on Saturday, I'm going to be doing a Navy home game against Wagner. And then I'm headed home Sunday morning, and I'll be in front of my couch by the time the game starts.
All right. And what's that social media handle?
Twitter is Randy Cross FB.
Wait a minute. It's not Twitter. It's X. X. Get it right. X. All right.
Whatever.
All right.
Whatever. Hey, that guy's got enough money.
Really? No kidding. I'm excited to hear Randy talk about Navy, because my college football podcast that I get to do every week, we focus solely on Service Academy football. It's called Yards and Stripes, and so we definitely have taught the midshipmen and Wagner. I don't know if anybody knows Wagner University is, but I can tell you it is in the doldrums of college football. That's a team that went 1-10 in the FCS last year and lost their first game this year to Fordham, which is known for football broadcasters, not football players, by 30 points. So I think the middies have
So Randy, he's asking for a college football job. Can you get him a college football job now?
It's on Staten Island, and they're the Seahawks.
There you go. Yeah, they lost. All I know is they lost to Fordham by 30 last week. I said on Yards and Stripes, they're fine for this game.
All right, and Randy, of course, is a 3-time Super Bowl champion. And Randy, I want you on more often during the 2023-24 season in NFL, and I got to see your face. All right, Randy?
Got to work on that camera.
Got to work on that. Work on that. Or Steve, you know somebody who has more better laptops or iPads or anything like that? Come on.
He's got a really. So I think once the camera figured out, I think he'll be fine.
And it's our pleasure once again. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion and one of the best, Randy Cross, and one of the best in Tampa, Steve Carney. You've been watching NFL Blitz here on the Fired Up Network. Thanks a lot, guys. This is Joseph Hasek, and welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to a special edition of Fired Up Live, and welcome to Crunching the Numbers. You know this is the start of the NFL season. You know it's huge, as Eric Cohen, yes, Eric Cohen has come back from 1967 when the Maple Leafs last won the Stanley Cup to appear on the Fired Up Network with Fired Up Alex Campbell, crunching the numbers before we get to Sunday's matchups. Both you guys like the Lions. It isn't a big surprise, or is it? Let's start off with Eric. 21-20, the Lions over Kansas City.
You know what? I'm going to echo the sentiments of Dan Campbell. It's not a huge surprise. It's what the Lions have been striving for. We saw it last year when they finished the season very strong. I mean, they ended the year last year sending Aaron Rodgers packing at a Lambeau Field by winning that game that didn't mean anything to them, but meant everything to Green Bay. And it showed the heart that this team had. They made improvements in the offseason. You saw the improvements in the secondary, obviously, with a pick six from a rookie in his first game. The secondary was so much better. They got pressure on Mahomes, and they did a lot of the things they had to do. Obviously, Kadarius Toney was a big help. He helped on the pick six. He helped with his drops that prevented Mahomes from moving the sticks, and it also certainly helped that Jones was out. And that Kelsey was out. Mahomes certainly did not look like he was a quarterback that had a lot of faith in the weapons around him. But all that being said, listen, the Lions walked in there. Mahomes never loses week one, never loses at home. And the Lions were able to accomplish that. So good on them. It's a great stepping stone for what should be a really good season for them.
Alex used to Drew Ebanks talking a lot. Now Eric overdoes Drew Ebanks. All right, Alex, quickly, what did you think?
My initial analysis.
I don't think you can overdo Drew on the talking a lot, especially if you get him started on Canadian basketball. But no, I agree completely with Eric though. I mean, like, I echo the same sentiments as Dan Campbell and Eric did. That like you had a resilient team that showed this kind of heart. Pretty much, and it's even beyond the winning streak they went through at the end of last year. You actually saw that in the first half of the season. They just weren't able to really finish a lot of those games. And let's be honest, they were pretty steep underdogs in most of them regardless. And they ended up, covering in those games too. And so, yeah, I'm not entirely surprised. They really improved the secondary. And like you said, they had a rookie, make a pick six in his first game. That's just phenomenal. And these are the fruits of the labor of Dan Campbell. You look up and down that coaching staff, and it's literally, veterans who have played the game after veterans who have played the game after veterans who have played the game. And I think it's made all the difference combined with the roster improvements. And yeah, here we are. They're going to contend this year.
All right, let's get to Santa. We're not going to touch on all the games because Eric's lose more hair if we do. All right, so let's talk about 1 o'clock. People are going to be watching San Fran and Pittsburgh. I'll start this time off with Alex. Give me who do you think's going to win, and your betting line of this game.
Yeah, I've got. I think that San Francisco's the better team, but I've got them going on the road and losing this one. I just think, the Steelers are being, undervalued here. Even though they're only 2-point dogs, that's a really, really good team. Pickett, I think, has a breakout season this year. Improves on his last season, and the defense has just gotten better in the offseason. So yeah, I got to go with Pittsburgh at home, and I think that 2 points is pretty slim. I like them winning by a field goal against the Niners here. Although, like I said, I think the Niners are the better team in the long run.
All right, Eric, crunch the numbers for this game.
Well, it's a weird one because I agree Pittsburgh is much improved, and the problem for them is the division they play in, right? Like they're a lot better than what they are last year, but they still might be the fourth best team in their division. In fact, they're projected to be the fourth best team behind Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Baltimore.
Yeah.
San Francisco is the second best team in the NFC, right there with the Eagles and the Lions being one tier back. I agree that Pittsburgh's much improved, and it's a tough place to play. And obviously, they look really good in the preseason. Pickett looked good. Pickens looked good. But that being said, you're not going to get San Francisco under a field goal in too many games this year. I think the Niners squeak it out and win by a field goal. It's going to be a very, very tight, close game.
And you talk about that division. Let's talk about the next game. Cincinnati at Cleveland. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow signs a contract, much like I give Eric Cohen here.
Oh, I wish.
Eric, what have you done with $275 million?
I would have my own island, and I would be lying in the sun with a couple of beautiful women by my side, my friend. There would be life changes.
Life changes. All right. Would you be like Austin Matthews? Never mind. All right. Go ahead. Cincinnati, Cleveland. Eric, go ahead.
Well, tough game again. I mean, that's why you have spreads of, in this case, 1.5. But I lean Cleveland, and I think Cincinnati's obviously a better team. Similar to what Alex said, why he liked Pittsburgh. You thought San Fran's a better team, but I like the spot for Cleveland here, even though they're not as good as Cincinnati. For whatever reason, Joe Burrow has struggled mightily in Cleveland. He's never won there. Last year on Halloween, the Bengals went there and got curb stomped Seth Rollins style. And, they went on a run after that. But they really struggle in Cleveland, and I think the Browns do it again. Burrow's not 100% healthy. Last year, Burrow played week 1, not 100% healthy, and threw 5 picks and lost. So, I don't think it'll be that bad, but I do think the Browns win as a home underdog.
Eric is much like the Miz, fights with himself. Go ahead, Alex.
No, I agree with Eric here. I think the Browns win and cover at home for a lot of the same reasons. And then one that I'll add to, and that's that, unlike what we've seen in the college game, I think the NFL, more than anything, the defense kind of wins in the early weeks. And I think, when we see that prevail here, I think that Burrow not being 100% healthy is going to weigh huge. And it's case just like, I talked about in the last one where, echo the sentiments, Eric, again, that I think the Bengals are the better team in the long run, but they're going to drop this one.
All right, let's get to one more, and then you'll give me your picks of the week here. So, Alex, you'll start us off with Jacksonville, Indianapolis. This is a funny game because Tony Khan and Shad Khan own AEW, own Jacksonville, and they were in Indianapolis this weekend or this week for AEW. I know, Alex, you don't care. You don't know what I'm talking about, but Eric knows, all right? And by the way, pick this game, but who's going to win the World Championship Eliminator Tournament, Alex?
The World Championship Eliminator Tournament? Yeah, I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing.
All right, so does Eric. Go ahead.
I got my guy Samoa Joe winning the tournament.
Yeah, Joe. Joe Burrow, that's Samoa right. Joe. Look, come on. Go ahead, Alex.
Whatever make the sponsors the most money. That's who I got. That's who I got in the wrestling tournament. I don't know who that is. You guys have more insight. Go with that guy. So what that game is? I think a 5-point.
Yeah, Jacksonville's a 5-point favorite now.
Yeah, 5-point game now. So yeah, I like the Jaguars, at home to win and with the points there to cover. So that's my pick. I just think they're head and shoulders above. This is a tough spot for a rookie quarterback on the road in Jacksonville against a team that was a playoff team last year and improved this year and has Calvin Ridley coming out and one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. So I think the Jags win and cover. I think they win by at least 10 points in this one.
All right, so the game's in Indianapolis, so Richardson will be at home. Yeah, but that being said, I think Jacksonville wins. Jacksonville, listen, they're the AFC version of the Lions, right? They're the team that really came on last year. Somehow erased a 27-point deficit to beat the Chargers in the playoffs. And to go into this year, and you mentioned the addition of Calvin Ridley. He's a really good wide receiver. Obviously, he's got to stay away from the things we're doing, but very, very good talent.
Things that who you're doing don't include Alex and me in it. What are those things, Eric?
Well, it's legal. It's legal for me to bet on the NFL. Right. It's just not legal for him to bet on the NFL. So he found that out the hard way. And listen, I think Jacksonville runs away with their division. They are so much better than Indianapolis, Tennessee, and Houston, obviously. And I think they make a statement week one. They generally beat up on the Colts the last few years, and the Colts were a lot better. So the Colts, obviously, no running game, rookie quarterback, Jonathan Taylor. Who knows when we're going to see him play? Right. So give me the Jaguars in this game.
All right, we'll go to 3 more games and then your pick of the week. Let's go with the reigning or Super Bowl, team that went in Super Bowl lost. The Philadelphia Eagles take on New England. Let's go start off with Eric in this one. Who do you like in this one?
I don't love going with the road favorite again, but I will go with the Eagles. I just don't believe in the Patriots. Bill Belichick's got a lot of things on his plate right now from a personal standpoint. And Philadelphia, it's going to be an angry football team. I think they all feel like they deserved a better fate in the Super Bowl last year. And I don't think they're going to have a Super Bowl hangover. I think they're going to take the next step with Jalen Hurts and the weapons that he has at his disposal. So give me the Eagles to win this game.
Alex?
Yeah, I'll take the Eagles as well. Same thing. I don't love taking the road favorite, twice in a row, but I like that. I like them to win and cover. I just think the Patriots are just overwhelmed here. They just don't have any real weapons, especially on the perimeter on offense. I don't know. Is Juju going to be the number one, a guy that can't separate? Can anyone in that group separate with it actually can catch the ball? Thornton probably can't catch the ball. So there's that. And I know that's the first thing that comes to mind. We tried this multiple tight end thing before. It didn't look great. The hope though is that, for them, Mac Jones did have a great rookie season, didn't really have an actual offensive coordinator. Now we see what Bill O'Brien can do, with the same offense. It's just at the end of the day, they don't have the weapons to really score with a lot of the teams in the NFL. That defense is going to help them sneak up and probably play spoiler to a team down the stretch. But beyond that, I think that's the biggest thrill the Patriots get this season.
All right, Sunday nighter right here, MetLife Stadium. Giants hosting Dallas Cowboys. Go ahead, Alex.
So Giants and the Cowboys. What a classic rivalry. It's a game that I just love to watch every time, no matter what. How good the teams are, and what the prospects are for each team. Who's playing quarterback? It doesn't really matter. It's just one of those classic, just looks like fall when the Cowboys and Giants are on the screen. I like the Giants in this one. They're getting 3.5 points. The Cowboys are very good, but I don't believe in the hype that behind Dak Prescott. Any that remains. I think statistically he's shown us he's basically Kirk Cousins or worse. I think he's really a game manager at this point and a distributor. He's not really a playmaker. He's lost the mobility that he once had. The offense is pretty loaded. The defense is loaded too, but I just don't think they have a game changer. They basically have like a B minus a quarterback that ends up being propped up to an A minus somehow by hype and media. But so I think, and I really like where the Giants are headed. It's funny because I think the Giants is a team that no one is talking about. Daboll in year 2, look at the difference he made in year 1. I actually think, that in New York, the Giants are probably going to finish with a same or better record than the Jets, and the Jets are everyone's darling right now.
All right, so go ahead, Eric.
That's a bold take. I like it. Alex, because you're right. All the hype in New York is about the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, and that defense. And the Giants were the team that did make the playoffs last year, and they won a playoff game. They won in Minnesota.
Right.
So you know what? Tight divisional game. You give me a home dog at +3.5 in prime time, and I'll always take it. Saquon Barkley was obviously an issue in the offseason, but seems to be okay now. He'll play. He got some money. He didn't get the money he wanted. I think a lot of running backs feel like they're being very undervalued. He's at the top of that list. But in this game against the Cowboys, and don't forget the Cowboys have had certainly had their issues in their home stadium when Eli Manning used to walk in there and win games. The Giants, for whatever reason, over the last decade, have spoiled a lot of stuff for the Cowboys, and I think they do it again. Give me the G-Men plus the 3.5.
All right, and Monday Night Football, this team, the Buffalo Bills, nobody circles the wagons like Eric Cohen. Buffalo Bills into MetLife Stadium, both Sunday night, Monday night, both in MetLife Stadium. It's the Bills and the Jets, and some guy named Aaron Rodgers quarterbacking first game for the Jets. Let's start off with Eric in this one. He's a big Bills fan. He's a big Lions fan. He's a fan of anybody who makes some money. All right, anybody who makes some money, and he's not a fan of anybody that makes him lose money, like every other team in the NFL. But go ahead, Eric.
Very tough game. Obviously, so much hype around the Jets as we just talked about. But listen, the Bills defensively have always been able to keep Aaron Rodgers in check, even when Buffalo was not a great team years ago. Aaron Rodgers came to Buffalo, and that defense laid a whooping on him. And then last year again, at home, won the game by double digits. It was actually closer than I think a lot of Bills fans wanted. But Buffalo's going to play with a lot of piss and vinegar this year. That's not a very happy team with how their season ended last year. A pretty humbling home playoff loss to the Bengals. And the Bills didn't have the offseason the Jets did when it comes to additions, but I think they feel like they've got the core there. Obviously, they need Von Miller healthy. He won't be healthy for the first 4 games. But, you know, their number 2 receiver, Gabe Davis, comes into the year much healthier than he did last year. And that was a big issue for Buffalo, was Davis and his drops. The Bills didn't have a running game last year. They expected to be different with Cook. And the Jets, will be good. Don't forget their stud running back rookie last year, Breece Hall, is still recovering. So he'll play, but he's not 100%. I don't know if Rodgers will have the continuity with all of his receivers, other than Garrett Wilson, who's a stud. But after that, he doesn't really have a lot after his number 1 target. I think the Bills win this game by a field goal. It's a very close game.
All right, Eric, you're back next week for saying that. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I think the Bills win and cover. I agree, though. Very, very close game, and you know, my analysis goes similarly, but like I'll add something to that. You know, kind of like I did last time. I agreed, and that's basically that offensive line in New York is still the weak point, and it's going to remain the weak point. And I think when you get a veteran receiver on that roster who tells the rest of the offense that he's going to get tired of this at some point, and you're going to see an old prickly Aaron Rodgers like we saw in Green Bay, and it's not going to be Mr. Nice Guy anymore, and he's going to literally stop throwing you the ball. I think that's what we're going to start to see against, right out of the gate, against a really good defense. It's going to, with or without Miller, is going to be able to put pressure on Rodgers. And kind of expose that point. I mean, and really, in the preseason, that was a weakness. I expect that to carry over.
All right, 2 things about this game, and then you're going to give your pick of the week, and we'll close it out. Don't forget, it's Hamlin's first game back since the tragedy that happened last January, and it's also September 11th. They're in MetLife Stadium, 2001. I don't have to tell you, so they're going to be doing something to honor it. 22 years already. Okay, and the Bills, of course, are going to win. And by the way, Alex and Eric, we have exclusive. You'll see it later on. Chris Berman. Yes, Eric thinks he looks like him. Chris Berman, all right, gives his pick on this game, and nobody circles the wagons like me and Eric Cohen. Alex, you could join the Bills Mafia, but if you don't, I'll get the Mafia on you. All right, Alex, I'll start with you. Crunching the numbers, give me your 1 or 2 picks of the week for week 1.
I'll give you one. Can I do it? Can I do a college game?
Okay, fine. You already do college gridiron. Go ahead.
Well, I put a lot of research into college gridiron. That's what I want to. So, anyways, so my favorite line, on Saturday this week is Ball State versus Georgia, and I think it's a game where all the money is going heavy on Georgia, both on them, hitting the over of 52.5 and the spread of 41.5. 2 teams that I'm not going to bet the over on this year: Michigan and Georgia. They don't have a reason to run up the score. They come into the season ranked high, conservative coaches that like to run the ball. When you see a monster number like that, I don't think the spread. I don't know. I mean, because they could score 42-0 in this game. I think that's within realm. But what I see is like a 30 to 38-0 game at halftime that they just take the break. They just take their foot off the gas. And basically don't even throw the ball through halfway through the third quarter and beyond.
All right, Eric Cohen's pick of the week. By the way, I'm going to zoom in, cameraman zoom in. All right, I'm going to zoom in because Eric's name here is not Eric Cohen, it's Hunter. He takes after Triple H's nose. So go ahead, Eric.
I'm going to give you a couple picks. If you're in a survivor pool, hold on to Baltimore. Take the Washington Commanders to lay a whooping on Arizona. The Cardinals are god-awful. They'll be the worst team in football this year, so fade them all year. Take the Commanders. You can lay the 7 in this game as well. A lot of the other picks I gave on the show, I like the Browns as a home underdog. I like the San Francisco 49ers on the road to win that football game. I like the Chicago Bears at home. The Packers, a lot of injuries on the receiving core. Jordan Love, first game as the new starting QB. I think the Bears and all the hype is legit. Bears are better, and you don't got to lay points. Take them on the money line at home against the Packers. I think the Seahawks are a lot better than they're given credit for. They're going to beat the Rams by at least a touchdown with no Cooper Kupp playing for Los Angeles. And the New York Football Giants getting 3.5 Sunday night, as we talked about. I like the G-Men.
All right, as we close it out, I'm going to start off with Eric. Your Super Bowl picks. Go at AFC and NFC. Who's your Super Bowl pick?
I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles getting back to the Super Bowl, beating the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. So restore the roar. Lions go on a run, but they fall just short to the Eagles. And the Buffalo Bills finally get back to the Super Bowl after dropping 4 in a row.
He stole my pick. You see that, Alex? Before I told him, before we went on the air, I said who's going to be in the Super Bowl. Of course, I
agree with you. I like the pick.
Copies greatness. Now, Alex, if you're smart, you would pick the Buffalo Bills. I said if you're smart. Go ahead, Alex.
I'm not very smart, apparently. Like I'll take the Bills. I'll take the Bills, similar to how he took the Lions to make it to the AFC title game, but then to lose to the Chiefs. And I think here's the thing: the Bengals are going to have a dog in the fight, but I think Burrow's going to struggle with injuries all year. He just got paid and comes into the season with injuries. I haven't been alive that long, but for the time I've been alive, that's not normally a good mix. For some reason, the pressure of just getting paid plus coming into the season injured, I see a lot of pressing in that environment. So we'll see what the season he has. But so I like the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl and win. And I think they're going to beat the Eagles there. We're going to see a repeat of last team. The Eagles to me are just so much head and shoulders best in the rest of the NFC. And I don't know if the 49ers still have it totally figured out at quarterback. So.
All right. So we said, who did you say again? The Eagles, right?
We all like the Eagles.
Yeah.
The Eagles, I say Eagles and Bills. Bills win. You say Eagles and Bills, and Eagles win. And you say Eagles and Chiefs.
Yeah, I think Mahomes figures it out. The Mahomes and the receivers figure it out through the course of the season.
All right, Alex, tell everybody how they could get a hold of you.
Yeah, I'm Fired Up Alex on Twitter, at Fired Up Alex on Instagram. Catch me on, hopefully at some point again, the Ball and Show with Drew Ebanks. Love doing the NBA and college basketball with him. Crunching the numbers here and college gridiron on the Fired Up Network as well. Plus, I write on firedupnetwork.ca on basketball, football, hockey, and a little baseball.
All right, Eric, does anybody want to get a hold of Eric? Maybe they want to get a hold of Hunter. Who's Hunter, by the way, Eric?
That's the old alias, my friend Alex. You're a busy guy with Fired Up. I love it.
Yeah, what are you doing? He's getting paid Joe Burrow money. What are you doing, Eric?
I'm missing. If he's getting paid Joe Burrow money, I'm getting paid.
Hold on, Eric. But hey, with his bets, Alex here with his bets, he's helping me pay you Joe Burrow money.
Oh, that would be a dream, Joe. Follow me at the real Eric Cohen on X. I think we call it X now.
We call it X, yes.
X.
Yes.
All Mr. Right. X, let's go.
So this is the first of many Crunching the Numbers with Eric Cohen and Alex Campbell. Stay tuned for more great programming. By the way, again, Chris Berman today on the show. Also on the show, three-time Super Bowl champion Randy Cross and
Randy
Steve
Cross.
Carney also. And by the way, you mentioned Drew Ebanks. Drew Ebanks will pop by to talk about Canada's loss in the World Cup of basketball.
Ugly. What a
Well, it wasn't
disaster.
ugly, but you weren't up at 4:00 in the morning. I know
This-
you were combing your hair in bed. Come on.
The USA lose and Canada loses out on an opportunity to play for gold. What a disgrace.
What a disgrace.
What a disgrace.
Eric, do you want to teach Alex any wrestling moves or anything like that as we close it out?
I'd show him an RKO, but it's hard to do from here.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news each and every day. I'm Drew Mosley, that's Scott Savage, and you can join us at InsideTheGame.ca, our YouTube channel at Inside the Game Official, podcast services thanks to our friends at FiredUp Network, and all those beautiful TV streaming platforms around the globe. I'm talking about Roku, Amazon Prime, Samsung Plus, Jinx Esports TV, ESTV, and a whole lot more. Scott, dude, it's the weekend. What are you playing this weekend?
I'm definitely going to have to get into some more Halo. I can't get it out of my system.
What?
I know it's a weird callback to Halo Infinite, that is, too. I'm not even going back to the old ones. I'm back in on the Infinite because it's gotten so good now that it's actually what I want to play.
Let me
I'm
ask
so
you.
happy to say that again.
Let me ask you a question. Have you heard of a little game called Starfield?
Oh, yeah, it's kind of making a rumbling. That's a PlayStation game, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. Scott, you're fired. Dude, it's everybody. I take a look at my friends list right now, and everybody's Starfield. Like, everybody is on Starfield, and I'm in it, dude. I'm going around just gathering resources right now. I have story missions to go do. I'm like, no, I was gonna go collect some stuff. I got a few minutes. I gotta go kill some time, and then I got encumbered, and it just weighs me down. I get frustrated, and then I bolt back to my ship and just spew all my goods all over my ship floor and then continue on. But dude, we got a lot to talk about in today's show. What do we have?
We have Elder Scrolls 6 exclusivity, the conversation surrounding the future. Very exciting projects are over on Respawn, and EA has more to tell on that. Maybe. We have Payday 3's roadmap. It seems they'll be getting a lot of different support over the next year. And E3 2024 might be happening.
Dude, I can yeah, E3. Really? I don't know. Ever heard of the Keeleys? That's what's really kind of going on right now. Scott, let's go, dude. We got a lot to talk about today. Scott, topic number one is a big one, dude. And it's no surprise Xbox Phil Spencer addresses potential Elder Scrolls 6 exclusivity, and, well, Starfield hits some massive numbers on day one. Not concurrent, overall players, and it's a big one. This comes from Tom Ivan over at VGC. Following this week's release of Starfield, Bethesda Game Studios' next game will be a new entry in the long-running fantasy RPG series. Starfield is available on the Xbox Series X and S, PC, via Windows, and Steam in the Microsoft Game Pass subscription service, which lets users play on titles. We all know how this works. It's Bethesda's Game Studios' first release since Microsoft acquired its parent company ZeniMax Media in 2021. Notably, Starfield is not available on PlayStation consoles, which will also be the case for an upcoming Indiana Jones game set to be published by Bethesda Softworks. In an interview with Bloomberg this week, Xbox boss Phil Spencer, dude, that always hooks me up a little bit.
X-Boss, every time, yeah.
Xbox boss Phil Spencer was asked whether Elder Scrolls 6 will also be an exclusive and how Microsoft decides whether it's on the right track with the release schedule strategy. Quote, "We look at it on a case-by-case basis with the games that we build," end quote. He replied, quote, "We want to make sure our games are available in so many different places on our Xbox consoles, on PC, also via cloud. These games can come to almost any web-enabled device. We're looking at millions and millions of players who will have access to Starfield and other Xbox Game Studio games. It's really about giving players choice around how they want to play, and they build their library of games," end quote. In November of 2021 interview, Spencer appeared to suggest Elder Scrolls 6 wouldn't be available on PlayStation. Well, Scott, let's get into why, because we just got some recent numbers as to Starfield alone. The number of players that jumped in on day one. You ready for this? When the game was released on Wednesday, Xbox Phil Spencer said it had exceeded 1 million concurrent players across all platforms, but it wasn't clear how many unique users had played Starfield. This has now been revealed in a tweet by the official Starfield account, which claims that over 6 million people had played the game by the end of its first official day of release. Dude, hats off. Hats off.
Yeah, that is
well
an
done.
Incredible achievement.
Right? Almost like a golf clap almost. it's dude, that is huge numbers. And this is why we've been talking about Xbox. Yo, where's the exclusives? Why aren't we playing any exclusives? You talk about PlayStation, you got to bring in PlayStation when you think about God of War, Horizon, Spider-Man. Dude, those hit juggernaut numbers too, because why? Because they're exclusive and people want to play those games, right? Hands down, we want to play those games. You get into Starfield, 6 million players on day one. Dude, that's day one. We haven't even conceded a whole week yet. Wait till next week. Just imagine what those numbers are going to be next week, Scott.
Oh, that was Forza Horizon 5, I believe, that had the record for 10 million in 1 week. I think this is on track to smash that. I think I'm going to hazard a guess at 12 to 13 million by the end of the week, but we'll see how that number lines up. But isn't it interesting being behind a, well, not to say paywall, but a subscription service and being exclusive didn't really seem to do much to slow the numbers down, to slow uptake. Everybody seems to get on.
No, absolutely.
I've seen a lot of testaments of people saying that I bought an Xbox just for Starfield.
I was going to say that. I was just about to say, people are buying an Xbox just to play Starfield because they want to be in on the conversation. They want to enjoy it, a great game. Granted, we talked about the issues, and you can check out our full review on our website, insidethegame.ca, to get our full thoughts and understanding of how the game works and what issues we did have, what we came across. We're still not done talking about it on the show. We're going to be talking about it again here in the next couple weeks, as you guys are jumping in now full swing and experiencing the game for the first time and what your thoughts are on that. But at the same time, dude, an exclusive like this means something. And you have to think, if we can get 6 million exclusive players on the Xbox platform, you're going to do it with Elder Scrolls as well, wouldn't you think?
I think so. Yeah, Starfield had to kind of build its own hype over many years, understandably. But Elder Scrolls is already it has that baked into the DNA. Everybody knows Elder Scrolls, and that has so much hype surrounding it that I think these numbers could even be small. Keep in mind, Elder Scrolls 6 is a long ways away, so it's hard to say exactly what the typical numbers will be, how many people are on Game Pass, for example.
Yeah.
But I'd expect it to be a lot similar to this.
Well, think about it. As we get into Elder Scrolls 6 in, 7 years probably from now? 7, 8 years at this point? Like, Bethesda takes their time. Like, think about that. Dude, it's going to be a while. like, at the end of the day, this isn't going to come out next year.
I'm glad we'll have GTA 6 to keep us busy until then.
Yeah, that's the idea, hopefully. But when this does drop, you have to think, if this is a testament of what Bethesda is doing right now and pulling in 6 million players on day one, Elder Scrolls has got to be in the same vein. Why would you want to give that to PlayStation? PlayStation's not giving you God of War, right? They're not going to give you Horizon. They certainly aren't going to give you Spider-Man 2. So why wouldn't you keep something for the Xbox fans? We've been hungry. We've been starving, Scott, for an exclusive over on Xbox. And this proves that right out the gate on day one that the exclusives speak for themselves. If it's a good game, granted, Redfall, not so good. But it's still in that vein, right? Of, hey, it's an exclusive. You want to play Redfall, you can only get it over here. Granted, not many people want to play that game. And there's warranted reasons behind that, right? But if you push that one out the side, you move into Starfield, and then you move into what's coming down the line, there's a reason for exclusives. And this maybe now takes conversation to a different level of going, maybe Xbox is no longer in third place.
I think that's an interesting discussion on its own.
Right? We could get into a whole discussion right there. Phil Spencer says right now in the bottom tier out of PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox is in third. Will this Starfield just bump them up a little bit? We do have Super Mario Brothers Wonder coming out here soon. but I don't think that's the big juggernaut title that's gonna. It's not like Tears of the Kingdom. Granted, I think it's gonna sell just fine, but I don't think it's gonna appeal to everybody. But at the end of the day, when they're in this console race, the exclusives are what's going to drive you ahead, right? It's going to pick up that pace for you. And then if you partner too with third parties, then you're into a whole other conversation. And that's something that Sony's done very, very well. That's why they are the number one right now, Scott. Like Nintendo's doing well, but Nintendo, we always talk about Nintendo does Nintendo, right? Like they're certainly.
Well,
go ahead.
They've used the exclusive model to stay in the race, and they've not always been last. So it's kind of unfair of us to paint them in that place. But think about the Wii. Nintendo exclusives really just sell their console. They understand that model, and it seems like Xbox has some catching up to do, but they're making good strides towards that. I think this Bethesda purchase, I think, is going to pay for itself.
I think so, absolutely. Do you predict Elder Scrolls 6 to go exclusive?
I think it will.
Me too.
Because of all this money, it had to be going somewhere. They had to buy something.
And Starfield's a proven case right there. 6 million players day one. You got to think Elder Scrolls is going to do the exact same thing. Dude, Scott, we got some good conversations happening today. I love it, man. EA says CEO is teasing stuff. What's the next project coming out of Respawn? Tom Ivan over at VGC. Speaking at the GSCT conference on Wednesday, Wilson praised Respawn's work on the Apex Legends and Star Wars Jedi series before saying there's more to come from the studio. EA acquired Titanfall maker, rest in peace, Respawn in 2017, deal worth $455 million, and well, dude, that's a hefty number right there. But now studios are getting bought up for the billions. So
yeah, it's incredibly small. That number was rendered quite small in short time.
Wilson said this: "We haven't done that many acquisitions. We've done a few. Respawn, of course, was maybe one of the most incredible acquisitions ever done in the industry. Well, they're an incredible team, and they've created incredible value for us, for our shareholders, and certainly for these global communities of players across Apex and the Jedi series. And you should imagine that there's some other things going on at Respawn that we're very excited about, that we're not going to talk about, but that we're very excited about, just given the quality of that group." Dude, what a tease and a hat. Like, really? We're not going to share anything with you, but hey, shareholders, start sending your more money this way, because Respawn's on their next project.
Yeah, it's funny. You had to make mention of that. It's good for the shareholders.
Yeah.
I think it's also good for gamers everywhere.
Dude, we weren't even mentioned in there.
Don't forget about us. Although I share the sentiment. Anything coming out of Respawn is worth a look at the very least.
Absolutely. Apex, Survivor, or just the Jedi series alone now at this point, right? With Fallen Order and then Survivor. We have to think we're getting into another Jedi Survivor sequel at some point.
Is this a way of tipping the hat, Titanfall fans? Hold on.
Dude, I don't think we're getting Titanfall yet. I really don't think so. I think, are they about to get into another IP? Let's get into that. As an interview with Axios in May, Respawn's boss Vince Cimbella said a, quote, "very small team is in the early stages of developing an original IP at the studio," Scott. So there's that as well. We're getting into something new. What are they working on? Well, nobody quite knows. But yeah, brand new IP has us rather excited. Opportunities there at this point, right? So you just put up Respawn on the screen, brand new IP. That's all we need to know. Well, we do have a ton of questions, but it is exciting to think of where they're going to head next, right? Because they've been crushing, dude, they've been crushing it out lately. Survivor, dude, still had issues on launch. Like, that game crashed 4 times on me, and I was so disappointed because it was at such a higher level than probably a lot of games I've played this year. And if it wasn't for those crashes, it might have been my game of the year. I don't know, but either way, what a game.
Quite technically sound though. The games that come out of Respawn, not usually buggy or crashing. That's quite severe.
We've seen.
Think about Apex. Apex and Titanfall. That is a shared universe. So I'm not sure if saying an original IP takes it out of that shared universe. But I can't help but think about Titanfall.
You think we're gonna spin off?
I don't want to say it's impossible. I think it could happen because the universe is just so large and begging to be fully explored. But I sound like a fan. because I am.
Absolutely. The thing I'm looking, okay, brand new IP. What direction did it take? Fantasy? We've seen a lot of rise lately in fantasy and sci-fi. Dude, sci-fi is hitting hot right now. It's coming in, especially with Starfield. But everybody else seems to be, hey, our new sci-fi title, our new sci-fi. And then fantasy is in there. Where else could they take this? Where are they going to go next? Are they going away from, well, I'd say going away from first person, but really Apex first person, Jedi Survivor's third person. Opportunities are endless here. This is just Respawn's working on something. Dude, I just want to know more. Payday 3 roadmap was revealed just yesterday as a press release came into my inbox. Scott, developer Starbreeze and publisher Deep Silver announced 2 new additions to the Payday crew arriving in Payday 3. Joy, a supporting character in previous games, and Pearl, an all-new heister, have joined up with Dallas and the rest of the Payday crew and will be playable at launch. Pretty exciting stuff there, Scott. We do have some high-level post-launch plans. Starbreeze is excited to share the content and updates players can look forward to later this year. Year 1 post-launch content. The high-level post-launch plan includes the following DLC. In the winter, the syntax error set for winter 2023. We get DLC 2, which is Boys in Blue, is set to release in the spring of 2024. DLC 3, The Land of the Free, will release in summer of 2024. And then DLC 4 pack will be the Fear and Greed set for fall of 2024. Dude, we got a bit of a lineup going on here, Scott. It's nice to see that things are already in production, already planned. I think this is one of those things. Payday 3 is essentially games of service, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking just now, is they're certainly expecting a long life cycle.
No, absolutely. Dude, if they have anything like they've had with the run-up with Payday 2, I think Payday 3 has that same, hopefully, agile take to then keep going and moving forward and getting into other things like that. Pearl and Joy will join the original crew. Pearl is an expert con artist and infiltrator who is as comfortable running scams on the streets as she is rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. Dude, sounds like my kind of character right there. I'm already into Pearl. That sounds cool. Joy is a genius hacker and security expert who is now on an official part of the crew. So 2 new characters coming right on day 1 for launch. 6. That brings us up to 6. No longer do we have to use the original 4. We can get into 6. Dude, I'm so excited for Payday 3. Like, there's a lot to unpack when we get into this, and I cannot wait. Dude, the fact that we have a crew on almost like a nightly basis for us is, I think, the exciting part, right? We can all jump in, have a good time, and it is one of those, dude, you definitely need to play Payday 3 with friends.
That's got me ready to go. I'm wondering what character is going to be mine. I'm going to have to look into them because they each have a history with Payday 2, and I need to find my place amongst the crew. I think we're going to have a lot of fun on this one.
I think so.
Fingers crossed. Hope for a good launch.
Yeah, that's just how well do the servers go at launch. Well, time will tell. But Joy, dude, a genius hacker and security expert, like, that's my build in a lot of games right across the board. Starfield included, right? I went into the hacking side. I went into the stealth side. So this could be my way to go in. And this is my true first experience getting into Payday. And it has me so excited to see all of us in there on a nightly basis trying to pull off these heists. Dude, very, very cool. And again, another tie-in over to GTA 6.
That's right.
E3 is something we've seen come and go, Scott, over the years, and it's worked and then it hasn't worked. Dude, it was the showpiece of our industry, and now, well, Keeley is the showpiece. I don't think E3 isn't it life, hope, this at all. Dude, I think E3 is just over, but Reed Pop and ESA part ways over E3. Yeah, E3 2024 it might happen, but doesn't sound like it will. Let's get into this one. Christopher Dring over at gamesindustry.biz. PAX organizer Reed Pop will not be working on future E3 events. The company and the ESA have announced. The ESA has also informed the Los Angeles Convention Center, which is the traditional home of E3, that it will not be putting a show on there in 2024. ESA has not canceled plans for the 2024 event, but if one was to go ahead, it won't take place in the venue. Scott, we've seen this come and go, man, for the last few years. E3 hit this point where it costs everybody an arm and a leg. We had the pandemic. Everybody switches to moving online to create their own showcases, their own state of plays, things along this line, right? Nintendo did a long time ago with the Nintendo Direct. And everybody, I think, has finally just started to catch up and understand that we don't need to go to E3 to showcase our own titles. Xbox is in that E3 week, but dude, they're at their own convention.
Catch up to Nintendo is an interesting thought that you just given me. It's funny to say.
Yeah.
Not throwing shade at Nintendo, but they're not generally the leading edge for decisions like this. But are we going to see, do you think, a digital event in any capacity? Or do you think the whole E3 week has passed now? We're already into the model of each company doing it individually. Maybe E3, I'm wondering if we'll even get a ceremonial mention at this point. Or is it just a relic of the past?
I think E3 is really just a relic of the past. I think they're trying to hold on with everything they can, but with Jeff Keighley kicking in, dude, he's overshadowed them now for so long that I don't think E3 really stands a chance of coming back. There might be something, and there's hope for them in 2025, but again, here goes another year that they go past. Every year they go past just puts them one further step in the hole, right? That 6-foot hole. And it just doesn't seem like they're ever going to come out of it. Dude, I feel like the E3 is kind of like our Electronic Boutique back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, EV Games, dude, is dead. And I kind of feel so is E3.
Names.
Yeah.
It changes names, and then a decade later, it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it just doesn't matter, right? I don't think E3 matters anymore because everything has an online presence where PlayStation can showcase exactly what they want and not have to worry about paying this exorbitant amount of money over to the ESA so they can put in a booth. Like, dude, there's tens of thousands of dollars going into these booths. They're like, what for? Why are we giving all this money away when we can keep it to ourselves and show off just as well, if not better? Because it's online, more people can play or more people can check it out. Like, there's other ways now to get around things where they don't need a true convention anymore, which is sad to say because that true convention is one heck of a thing. Like, PAX still happens, right?
Yeah.
Gamescom still happens. But E3
TGS even.
Yeah, exactly. TGS is coming up. But E3 just put themselves in such a hole that even Jeff Keighley was like, I'm done working with them. I don't like their vision. I don't think they have what they have. And I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but he didn't like their idea of where they wanted to take their presentation next, the E3 event. And that's why Jeff started his own thing, which has worked out just fine for him. And it seems to be kind of taking the industry to that next level where E3 wasn't. It was everybody shows up, everybody comes to us, and that's not the case anymore, right?
No, I think this is just a modernization of the same concept. I would have loved to go to an E3 event. However, I think the last one, the writing was on the wall in 2015, I'm going to say. I think that's when Keighley really stood up, took the stage, and then took the stage with him on the way out.
And now Reed Pop is gone too. After 14 years of working with ESA, now they're gone. Like, dude, the future of E3, as far as I'm concerned, is dead.
I think it's gone.
Scott, it's Friday, and, well, there's lots to play over this weekend if you're not already playing Starfield. But good luck to some of these games. I know there's a big one in here my son has been pumped for, dude. What are we playing this weekend?
We have Synced on PC. Enchanted Portals on PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series consoles.
We have that one, by the way. We're going to be playing that one, too. That one looks kind of cool. It reminds me a little bit of Cuphead, Scott.
Oh, has me excited. NBA 2K24 is on PC, PS4, 5, Xbox One, XS, and the Switch. I'm very interested to see how that runs across all these consoles.
We have that one, too. So we'll be on that one as well. Dude, there's so many games. I can't keep up.
It is really hard to keep up. We have Anonymous Code on PC, PS4, and the Switch. And Fae Farm comes to PC and Switch today. And that one looks cute.
It does. It's like a Animal Crossing kind of thing. Dude, that looks pretty cool. Well, that'll wrap up today's show, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. This has been ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news each and every day. We'll be back again. I'm Drew. That's Scott.
And we'll see you inside the game.
I'm Gerald Bentley. This is Wrestling with Sales, and I am joined by one of the legacies of professional wrestling, Leland Race from the World League Wrestling right here in Missouri. Leland, thanks a lot for joining us here.
Hey, thank you for having me, my friend. I appreciate the opportunity, and my apologies for the background because I have 3 jobs, and so it's there's something taking place all the time, and this is one of my many work areas.
Now you're keeping busy, and you guys are running.
That's an understatement.
You got the academy out there, the Harley Race Wrestling Academy. You have World League Wrestling. I mean, you're always keeping busy. I'm sure for people that are just kind of getting into independent wrestling here, because there's been a big resurgence. Maybe if you've watched the show Heels, sometimes Heels is a little over dramatic, the Stephen Amell show, but there's definitely some of it that resonates. The amount of work that goes in to put it on a show, it's really a ton of time you have to put in. And you guys just finished up. You had your Summer Sizzler event here just this past week.
Yes, sir.
Everything go well with the Summer Sizzler? I mean, that's a big event to put on. You guys were on TV. You packed the arena. How did it go?
Overall, it was like you just said. It was packed. We sold out. I didn't expect it because typically August is hit or miss. It's at the end of the summertime, meaning your family vacations. You have school getting ready to start back up, if not already starting back up. And there's a couple of, there's a local car show that draws thousands of people from all over the county, this side of the state. And so there's a lot of different variables that can make it a miss. But luckily our team here struck out, hit a home run, knocked it out of the park. And every one of the guys and girls too, for that matter, just did a fantastic job. And I couldn't say a bad word about it.
Yeah, there's really a lot of terrific wrestling talent that's coming up here in the central part of the country. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. We've worked with Central States Wrestling. One of the guys that is on the WLW roster, second to none, Kenny Alfonso.
Mm-hmm.
Just had a chance to talk to him about the path that he's taking. And, WLW is a big stepping stone. You guys pack the arena, like you said, in beautiful Troy, Missouri, just a little bit away from where I'm recording this in Kansas City. And you have a TV presence, national TV presence.
Yes,
Where
sir.
can people find WLW Wrestling?
Well, we try to keep up with as much of the social media world as we can, but there's so many platforms, or however you want to word it. There's so many of those, it's hard to keep up. The main 2 to 3 that we stick to is, of course, Facebook, World League Wrestling, on there, and then Twitter is kind of, Twitter's kind of hit, if we can do it, because it's you're limited with the amount of words, and if it's anything like me,
sure,
long-winded. So I don't really like to be limited to what the amount of characters or whatever that I have to put on there. So we do our best to hit those 2 plus Instagram, YouTube. We're uploading our stuff on there. We just put a full event, the last one, the June event, which was Gold Rush. We put the full thing. Our commentary team got together, called the whole event from start to finish. And overall, I think the product was awesome. And it was something different too, to do something like that.
Yeah, and it's a challenge, right? Because you don't have the, I don't know what you want to say, the machine, the architecture, if you will, of
Correct,
a WWE, an AEW, a New Japan, where there's a person to do every element of the job. Like you said, you're doing 3 jobs. A lot of things, they end up falling on you, and the wrestlers are really an important part of promoting the show, because
Absolutely.
They have to get their draw. They have to reach their social media community and get them to come in. It's just not as easy as showing up.
No, it's not. And but I have learned through many mess ups that not how to do it right, but how to do it better, because I'm never ever going to do it right. From one day to the next, from one event to the next, things will change, circumstances will change, variables will change. weather could be a thing, other local events taking place, or statewide or anything like that. Luckily, I have somewhat figured out how to round up all of the talent up to in a very helpful way to get them to help us out, and in turn we help them out. And here over the past, I would say 5 to 6 years, I think our reputation has grown in a good way. The amount of talent and history here, is 24 years. This November will be 24 years that World League Wrestling has been in operation. And obviously the faces have changed and ownership has changed and things of that nature. Yeah, but that to an extent comes along with the territory. But overall, I can definitely say that where World League Wrestling is at now is a great thing. And it's at a great place, and everybody works hard. Of course, you have the stragglers that, some of the new kids that, they had to be taught how to work because, this generation of young people just in life, they don't have the absolute best work ethic. And that's one thing that doesn't sit well with me. And that's why our, academy is great, because there's a lot of kids that come in, and when they learn how to do things the right way, they apply themselves. And when I tell them almost daily, just as a reminder, not to harp on them, but just as a reminder that everything that we teach at the academy, you can apply to life. And that's just how it is. You have to look outside of the box, but you're not going to go body slam somebody at McDonald's because they got your burger wrong or whatever.
No, somebody says they don't want to buy the car. You can't really go ahead
you can't
on the side and give them a paradigm shift.
For sure. But that said, it's one of those things where reading in between the lines is like a super important thing. I could definitely say within wrestling, because this is my world that I'm living in.
Sure.
But learning how to do that and do it effectively is, it gets you far in life. And being able to teach these kids the sport of professional wrestling is fantastic. It's something that I'm lucky to be a part of on a day-to-day basis, and being able to teach them how to apply said things in life it just brings it to a whole nother level. It's being able to see the kids here grow and mature, that's what it's all about.
That's a great point, and it definitely is something that I think runs through with a lot of the people that I've talked to. Hey, let's just get a quick word in from our sponsor, Montway Auto Transport. As a dealer, we got to get the bills paid, right? Sure. As a dealer, you spend a lot of time buying cars at auction. If you're using Edge Pipeline to manage your purchases, then this is big news. Montway Auto Transport has partnered with Auction Edge to add a transportation option to Edge Pipeline. Now dealers can manage their auction buys and book transportation with just one click right in the Edge Pipeline platform. Just that easy. 1, 2, 3, but you only need one. As a nationwide leader in auto transport, Montway understands a dealer's need for speed and efficiency and can arrange single or multi-vehicle moves from the auction to any lot in the country. With Montway's technology, dealers can gain full transit visibility and tracking after an order has been booked, making it much easier to manage inventory. Buy, ship, and track all in Edge Pipeline. Go to www.montway.com/WS to learn more. And, Leland, I wanted to ask you, because I think it's a really interesting story, because there's a lot of second generation, even third generation wrestlers. If you're watching AEW, WWE right now, you see the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. You see Andrade El Idolo. Well, you had one of the biggest challenges, I think, of a second generation wrestler coming in with the king of pro wrestling, and any wrestling show you go to in this area, King Harley Race, Handsome Harley Race, your former NWA heavyweight champion of the world, comes up because he had such an impact. And when you started training, you moved across the country and trained under a different name. Was that to just make sure that you did it 100% on your own without
long and
feeling
short,
like
yeah,
legacy carried you?
That was part of it, but it was also to show everybody, there was no favoritism. He actually encouraged me not to get involved in wrestling. But this is the only thing that I've truly, really wanted to do since I've been 11 years old. 10 or 11, I'll say 10 and a half. But, and sorry for my dogs, but
no, he's fine.
And everybody's just, they always come around whenever I'm doing stuff like this. That said, I was sent to Charlotte, North Carolina. That was March of 2003. I had to think back. So, and I trained under a guy named George South, who
big trainer.
Yeah, well, he's a great trainer. He more importantly than that, he's a great person. He put me through the ringer and in the best way possible. I tell the guys here that it's a different day and age, because where I trained at, how I broke in, was a building where the ceilings probably weren't any bigger than where I'm at right now, my house. It was a low boy ring, meaning the feet were cut off, and you could stand in the ring. It was a 16 by 16 ring, stand and touch the ceiling. So you learned how to wrestle, and the fundamentals of it. And we were in there for 3 to 5 days a week. It just depended on where and when George had stuff taking place on the weekends. He did ring rentals, he had wrestling events, he still has both, and his wrestling academy too. But we would go in there 3 to 5 days a week, and it was 6 hours a day. And there was no air conditioning. There was no, water breaks. You go in there and you did what he said. And that's just how he did it. And that is something that I pride myself on. I don't know if a lot of people today could do that religiously, but I'm super happy with that method of training. It made me to the wrestler that I am today, and the person too, for that matter.
Well, and that kind of rings true too, because I imagine that was similar to the training your dad went through. I heard
long and short,
Ric Flair talk about Vern Gagne's training program and how intense it was, and that people, hardly anybody made it through it. And at the end, if you made it through it, you were set.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. The training that my dad went through, he did it with the guy, two guys. They were the Zbyszko brothers, in the Iowa area, if I can recall properly. Not Larry Zbyszko. It was the two brothers. I can never get their names right, so I won't attempt to butcher their names out of respect for them. But they had a farm, and basically how it worked was that he worked on the farm during the day, and then during the evening and afternoon, evening, and nighttime, they would train him in pro wrestling. So it was kind of a trade-off, and vastly different, even compared to when I broke in. The rings were stiffer. You're already wore out, because working on a farm isn't easy work, no matter what day and age. So, that it's again, it kind of goes back when I said to made me the person that I am. The way he broke in only elevated the person that he was, because he's, a different type of person. He broke the mold. I always told him, in a good way, did everything he do please everybody? No, but you're not gonna be able to please everybody. It's just how life works, right? But he wouldn't have the reputation that he still has to this day, and he's been gone with us from us now for 4 years, and his reputation is still second to none. There's still not a person that would go about and badmouth Harley Race at all. He'd probably come back from the dead and smack him around a little bit.
Well, I know I talked to Ross and Marshall Von Erich.
Yes.
And part of their training at the behest of their father, Kevin Von Erich, was with your dad up there in Troy, Missouri.
Yeah, they actually trained in Eldon.
That's right.
Yeah. We helped break them in. They initially got started with us first, and then went to Pro Wrestling Noah, and then back. It was kind of back and forth, from Japan to Eldon, and that was in a building where we also had no AC. And in Eldon, it was hot. It's still hot now, but there were days where I literally remember seeing the thermometers on the bank outside. It was like 120 degrees. So you lost a lot of unnecessary body weight in days like that. And Ross and Marshall, super good people. Same with their dad, Kevin, and their entire family too. We had the opportunity to meet them. Myself and another guy by the name of Brian Breaker had their first matches, and that I try to keep all that stuff in my head because it just makes me appreciate everything that has taken place, and again helped me mold the person that I am today.
Well, I think there's definitely a commonality, right, between you and the Von Erichs. So I mean,
sure. Well,
not many people can relate to your life's experiences like they could.
Well, the Harley Race Wrestling Academy, and specifically the old man, did not. He had a reputation for training people. Like, in addition to his outstanding reputation as a professional wrestler, same with a human being, he also had a fantastic reputation of training up and coming wrestlers, whether it be in the ring, out of the ring, or in between. A lot of second generation wrestlers came through the Harley Race Wrestling Academy. You had Reed Flair, Richie Steamboat, Joe Hennig, Ted DiBiase, Mike DiBiase, Ted DiBiase Jr., Mike DiBiase, Amy Hennig. There was just a slew of them that have came through here. So and of course, obviously Ross and Marshall. So when you look at the success of the wrestler Harley Race, sometimes good wrestlers, and I'm speaking in this field, but good wrestlers, great wrestlers don't always make great teachers. It just isn't in the cards sometimes, right? But the Harley Race Wrestling Academy and the wrestler Harley Race, it flowed because of how good he was in both areas. He was just that type of person. And never mind what he did outside of the ring and outside of pro wrestling to help the guys that train here. And those effects are still being felt today.
And just to get back to today, I'm going to say this was a little while ago, you and Camaro Jackson, the Quad Father, fighting it out in a strap match. But right now, you got a couple of straps that you're wearing as the ULW Tag Team Champions. So that's got to be feeling good to be the belts for one of the belts for your company.
Absolutely. It's back in the picture you just put up was in February of this year. Yes, sir, that one. And it was, and I'm sorry, my eyes, apparently there's allergies going on, but that was a match of respect. And to my knowledge, I'm sure there's been others, but I'm just going to say it. It's the second ever, the first one being Kevin Sullivan and Brian Pillman, one of their infamous matches. But now myself and Camaro is just a good human being. I like to surround myself with good people. Who wouldn't, right? But Camaro is a good person. He loves the sport. He loves the industry. He loves the business. And, him and I seem to click. We just had a great match this past Saturday against two young kids, the O'Neill brothers. And, again, it clicked. So we're happy with how things are going. And as far as I'm concerned, we're going to keep going that direction.
What's the next big event coming up for WLW?
Yes, sir. September the 9th at the Harley Race Wrestling Arena in Troy. It's called Stars and Stripes 2. It's a wrestling event. We're going to be figuring it out today, actually, like the finalized product of it. But where, you know, it's basically in commemoration of 9/11. We have done it for the past 3 years, and we're going to keep doing it too. You know, I like tradition. I like doing those types of things, honoring the people that have given their lives in their 9/11 case.
Sure.
They gave our lives unwillingly, might I add, but to honor those people who did lose their lives. I think that was a better way of saying it, so my apologies. But to honor the people that lost their lives on 9/11, we always hold this event in September. And so people that are in the military or were affected by 9/11, you know, family members, et cetera, they get to get in free to the event. So
that's great.
Thank you. That's what we're doing. And again, we're going to keep it going like that for every September, as long as I'm breathing.
And if I'm correct, you guys do a show at Fort Leonard Wood too, right?
Yes. Funny enough, I actually just got an email from they call it it's the entertainment board there from the gentleman there who wants to bring us back next year. We this past February 25th, there was the largest crowd that WLW has had in like 10 years, over close to 1,200 people, if not over. I can't remember exactly. I don't have the paperwork here in front of me, but that was awesome. I told that, like, the kids that wrestled here, minus Matt Seidel, and he's not a kid, obviously, but we had him in. We had Bob Orton in for that event too. For the rest of the World League Wrestling roster that came to that event, they had never wrestled in front of a crowd that large. Yes, 600-700 people. That a lot of them have wrestled in numbers of that magnitude. But when you approach or cross that 1,000 mark, that's a different thing. And those military members, bless their heart, man, they went in there and just made it worthwhile. Because the second they got in, they were loud and they were rowdy. And to be a part of something like that was awesome. And I didn't tell the guys, like, I knew going into it that afternoon what our approximate ticket sales were. And at that, it was over 1,000 at that point. And so I didn't tell them because I wanted them to have a good surprise, a good feeling inside, you know. And we had a couple of wrestlers that were either going, had been through there training wise or worked there. We had Kenny Alfonso, former, I know he's a former military. I cannot remember the branch, so my apologies, Kenny, in advance. But we got him and Austin Mulatala. They actually had a great matchup between the two. Austin is stationed and working at Fort Leonard Wood. And that was just an awesome day. And it was so loud, I remember I could not hear myself think. Which is dangerous in and of itself. But the people that the fans, the military trainees, and even the people that came off from off base too, they were so appreciative of it. And it was such an awesome environment that, you know, to do it once is fantastic, but to do it twice or, you know, multiple times over, we're happy to do it. And I got to respond to the gentleman there so we can get this one going again. I think it's going to be February of 2024. So, in addition to other bases around the Midwest. So that's what we're looking forward to doing. And man, that was so awesome.
Yeah, it's terrific. My daughter served at Fort Leonard Wood. It's
awesome.
Really an amazing facility. And when you get ingrained with that military community, the people there are really just so appreciative of having the outreach. I think it benefits both. It benefits the wrestlers dramatically, and it's a great benefit to the military people to have something right there for them. Absolutely. Because Fort Leonard Wood's really nice, and just outside of St. Robert, Missouri. It is it is a little bit isolated, so it's awesome.
You know, and a lot of people that train there, I guess they they can't leave, and so they're in so many words stuck there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying held at gunpoint because that's not the case.
No, not a bad place. There's a ton of restaurants.
No.
Entertainment stuff, but there's the fort, there's St. Robert's, and then everything else is.
That's and there's a
little
highway
ways
about
away.
3 miles off, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't get the opportunity every day of the week or every week of the year, whatever, to have something like professional wrestling come there. And the last time that pro wrestling was held there was back in 2017 or 18. I was lucky enough to be a part of that as well. And it was awesome then. But this just brought it to a whole other level. And man, I was so happy with the turnout for myself, but for all the guys involved, all the military personnel, everybody, because I knew once we got the ball rolling, it was going to be awesome. It was just getting the ball rolling because we had actually originally had planned to do that specific event June of 2020. And then, of course, when was it? March 13th. The world, basically the world shut down. I can say we Missouri did, but so everything got put on hold. And then, here we are talking about it now. Luckily, we were able to do it, and that was a great thing. And going to be able to continue to do it is an even better thing.
Oh, that's absolutely terrific. I want to make sure I mention it too. The weekly television show, World League Wrestling Showdown, in a lot of the country, and it's accessible too, so you can check out WLW Weekly on TV.
Correct. Yes, sir. If you, we started airing this iteration of World League Wrestling television programming on September 18th, 20th, 2nd, somewhere. It's September 20th, in that range of 2018. And that was 5 years ago. And we just last week signed a new contract to extend that programming in the Columbia market. We're in St. Louis, St. Joe, Texas, New York City, on like 4 different channels. Boston, there's Indianapolis, there's a lot of them. We haven't got kicked off the air yet, so hey, that's a good thing.
That's a lot. So, I mean, you're running the school, doing a TV show.
Yes, sir.
Running a promotion, holding a belt. That's a lot. That's a lot of jobs to handle. And you got the dogs. So, I mean,
we got the dogs. We got, I have a side hustle. I have doing here graphic design and t-shirt, long and short of it. But, t-shirt making. I also have another job that is, because in wrestling, nothing's ever guaranteed. Well, life, nothing's ever guaranteed, right? So I have another job that gets me a guaranteed paycheck as long as I do my job. So
there you go.
We stay busy here. There's no dull moment. And
we'll go ahead and wind it down here. Got the dealership rescue belt for you, the Wrestling with Sales title. So add a title to the list. Go to the championship round here. I know you've had a couple of chances to get out to Japan.
Yes, sir.
And wrestle, and you guys still are involved with Pro Wrestling Noah. Who would be your dream opponent to face in Japan?
That is a hard one to answer. Did they have to be Japanese?
No, it could be anybody.
And I mean that respectfully.
No.
I don't know. That's a hard one to answer. The last time I was in Japan, it was with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and there was a lot of guys that I had the opportunity to wrestle. So, Tanahashi, Juice Robinson.
Sure.
Man, my memory escapes me. That was 7 years ago now. But, there was one person there that I didn't get to wrestle, and that was Okada from New Japan.
Sure.
Wrestled for Noah, and there's a lot of great talent there. I did several tours for Noah, 4, I think. And so, both promotions have a lot to offer in a great way. And we're lucky to have both still around. But I say that due to the COVID stuff.
Sure.
But it's I think Okada or Kenta, one of the two. So
perfectly good answer.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
how
Sir.
about this? Somebody that hasn't watched WLW, World League Wrestling, what are they getting when they tune in to watch a WLW show?
You're getting the absolute best and the generation of tomorrow for professional wrestling, because WLW was created to give fans a no-nonsense, in-your-face opportunity to see professional wrestling at its best, because it was created by the 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the WWE Hall of Famer, Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, multiple times other Hall of Famers as well, First Missouri Champion, King of the Ring, except the list is almost endless.
Sure.
But Harley Race, and so when you think of Harley Race, as you just said before, he brought his A game each and every single time, and so that is what he did with World League Wrestling, and we continue to uphold that expectation, because there's absolutely nothing less than to meet those expectations and with hopes at some point in time of exceeding them, even though, to try and keep us grounded and humble, we're never going to exceed them. So,
and just finally, to wrap it up, where can fans find out more about WLW, the Harley Race Academy? What's the best way to find out a little bit more about you guys?
Sure, absolutely. HarleyRace.com. Just take the name, put it together, put .com. That's it.
There you go.
That's the official website of the Wrestling Academy, World League Wrestling. Find out information about the old man, etc. Merchandise, all that cool stuff. Social media presence wise, again, Facebook and Instagram, they're integrated, so that's why I say it like that.
Sure.
World League Wrestling on there. So Facebook.com/World League Wrestling, Instagram.com/World League Wrestling. So trying to make it easy. But that's the best opportunity to follow us and to learn more about what we have.
Well, Leland, thanks a lot for stepping into the ring here on Wrestling with Sales, joining us on the Fired Up Network. Thanks to our friends at Montway Auto Transport for helping bring this show to everybody. And until the next time we step into the ring, look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.
Thank you, my friend.